Father, we thank you for the many blessings and constant mercies that you show us. Thank you for the prosperity of our county and our nation and for the many opportunities we have. I pray that we would not take them for granted. Thank you for the opportunity and freedom we have to govern ourselves. I ask you to give courage to those serving in office to do what is right by the people they serve. I ask that you protect our men and women in uniform, watch over them and their families, bless them for their sacrifice and for putting their lives on the line to serve us. And finally, I pray for wisdom and guidance to all of those serving in public office. I would ask that those decisions that we make be honest, fair, and just, and most importantly, that they be in the best interest of the people that we serve. In your Son's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There appear to be no need for the oath of office. So appearances, Compass Financial Advisors are here to discuss our new AAA rating.
Good evening. Didn't know finance was such a hot topic today. My name is Brian Nurick, and I'm the Managing Director of Compass Municipal Advisors. And our firm has the privilege of representing the county when it comes to issuing tax-exempt debt. Earlier this year, there were two bond offerings that we worked with your administration on, a $10 million offering and a $20 million offering I'll get into in one moment. You should all have a handout that I handed out earlier that goes through very quickly just some points on the offering that I wanted to point out for you here this evening. In what we do, there's not a whole lot of excitement, but every now and then there is a piece of excitement, and today is one of those days. The county has reached AAA rated status. So your credit rating received the highest rating possible by Moody's Investor Service. And there's only now 4 counties in the state of South Carolina that has achieved that status. And with that comes some benefits for all the entities in the county. So if you look at the first page of the handout that you have, we identify the first bond issue that we issued in January, towards the end of January. It was a $10 million general obligation bond for Lake Wylie Parks and Recreation District. And the one takeaway from this particular bond issue is in the bidding. So I put off to the right-hand side all the firms that bid on this various bond issue, and you can see that Wells Fargo Bank gave the best interest rate at a 2.18%. With the cover bid, the second place bid, Raymond James at 2.23, and that's a difference of 5 basis points or 0.05%. Wells Fargo handles a lot of the banking for the county, and in our business, relationships matter. So with that 5 basis points is worth $34,000. So the district is going to receive an extra $34,000 by virtue of you having this AAA bond rating as opposed to another bond rating, as well as that relationship that you have with Wells Fargo Bank. So this was a very successful sale, and it's already closed. The next page, we identify the $20 million bond issue that you issued for some purchase of some real estate. And you can see that because of the notional amount of the borrowing in conjunction with the AAA rated status, you received 16 bids, which we do not see very often. Very rarely do we see over 15 bids. Most of the time we don't get over 10. So the fact that you had 16 bidders from around the country all participating and trying to purchase your bond issue is another testament to your credit rating. JP Morgan was the winning bidder, and that particular entity has been trying to have us come up and talk about your utility system at one of their events each year. So they're very active, and another example of the relationship playing out for the county's benefit. But borrowing for 14-year money at a 2.53% fixed rate of interest is a fairly low interest rate. The page after that, page 4, is your credit ratings and the credit ratings that you can receive by category, and then within the breakdown of a category. And so you can see off to the left, Moody's Investor Service general obligation bond rating is AAA rated now. You were upgraded to a AAA from the agency. Standard & Poor's off to the right-hand side, AA plus. So you're one notch under AAA with that credit rating agency. We'll continue to work with them on their rating for the general obligation bonds of the county, but we did achieve AAA from Moody's, which is our first step. And then you can see that the water and sewer system is rated AA plus and AA2 respectively from each of the agencies. And down below, we talk about some of the credit strength. So why did you receive AAA status? What drove that to happen? One is strong reserves and liquidity. So you have a good cash position. You have a growing and sizable tax base. You have a very, very manageable debt burden, and then you participate in the greater Charlotte area. So those were the four factors that drove the rating to the AAA rated status. And then off to the right, we notate some of the reasons why maybe Standard & Poor's isn't there yet, and that's taxpayer concentration related to other AAA rated entities, and then basic wealth levels are different statistics that they look at. So we'll continue to work with Standard & Poor's, but most notably, we received AAA from Moody's Investor Service, the highest credit rating. On page 5, the second to the last slide, some of the benefits of the AAA for the county. Number one is quite obvious, which is a lower cost of money, lower cost of capital, increased competition within the pool of bidders, expands on the universe of buyers due to a category change. So some entities can buy AA rated bonds, but they can't buy single A rated bonds. There's some entities that can only buy AAA rated bonds. Increase in market access, so the more people that can buy bonds, the more liquid they are, the more sought after they are. And AAA rated paper can be used as a risk-free asset, so it can be posted as collateral, so your bonds have more value in that particular purpose. And then maybe what might be most important for everybody is the elevation of other entities within the county's ratings. So in South Carolina, because the county controls taxation and the collection of those monies, most entities are benchmarked from the county. So the higher the county's rating, the higher everyone else participating within the county's rating will be off a benchmark basis. So all your school districts, they will be benchmarked off the county's rating, and all other entities as well. So it's a really big deal for a county to have the highest rating in South Carolina because of that benchmarking. And then lastly is really just an affirmation of all the decisions, past and present, that you've made on a fiscal basis. To me, this is only the second time that I have participated in a county or any entity that we represent, over 120 in South Carolina, receiving AAA. We worked with Richland County on their AAA rating. And you can see that there are only 4 counties that have the AAA rating: Charleston, Greenville, Richland, and now York. And then on the last slide is the scorecard that Moody's Investor Service uses to compute your rating. So it's a 2-part process. They use this as a benchmark to start from, and then they will deviate 1 to 2 notches depending on decisions that you've made, depending on policies that you have in place in particular. And down at the bottom right, you can see that after we do all their statistical analysis, they come to a 1.67 or a AA1 credit rating. However, we have the highest credit rating possible. So why is that? What happened to get us the highest credit rating? And that's really a testament to the policies in particular that you've adopted. Those policies are very strong, and essentially they have notched you one more up from AA1. So you move from AA1 to AAA because of that review of your financial management. And then lastly, is just congratulations. Mr. Madden told me to be brief. I know you have a lot going on tonight, so I've been as brief as I can, but really congratulations on a job well done. The second bond issue will close here in the next couple weeks, and we look forward to representing you all again. Are there, I know I went really fast, pretty big crowd here tonight. Are there any questions for me I'd be happy to answer?
Mr. Roddy.
Let me turn my mic on. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'm in several conversations every other week about money and the ability to borrow money and what does it mean when you talk bond ratings. So what I heard you say was we're basically one out of 4 counties throughout the state of South Carolina that has achieved the AAA.
That is correct.
And you said that whether it's school district or other, are municipalities included in our strength? You know, once we've achieved this, it helps others when it comes to borrowing also?
That is correct.
So in a sense, the counties benefit, the other municipalities and school district, they benefit when we do right.
That is correct.
Okay. So kind of put in perspective for those who are here and watching at home, the difference. I mean, you painted a clear picture of the difference of being a AAA when it comes to savings or what it costs to borrow money versus the next level down versus the tier. So AAA saved us on one particular bond you mentioned like $34,000.
In combination with the relationship of that particular bidder, yes.
So the next one below AAA would be
AA1.
AA1. And so if we were AA1, would have
About
paid
another 5 basis points.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 5 basis points on a category like that. So another 34,000, that particular example.
So how difficult is it for municipalities to achieve this AAA? Do you
Very
see?
difficult, very difficult. They don't have the tax base size, the scalability that a county typically would have. There are a handful, Hilton Head Island being one, that their wealth levels are just so high that they've received AAA rated status. But outside of that type of a wealth base, it's very, very difficult. And there's a more of a reliance on the county to sort of pull everybody up, if that makes sense.
So a municipality can about expect, what's about the highest a municipality can expect to have when it comes to bond rating?
You see a few in the AA category, you know, your Mount Pleasants of the world, you know, sort of outside of the Charleston area. You'll see that they'll achieve the AA right in that area, but not, AA1's pretty difficult to achieve.
Do you know of any municipalities in York County that's pretty strong with the AA? Do we have any in York County?
Outside of school districts,
Municipality, school district, who's doing well financially?
the school districts by and large have achieved the AA category.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public forum is next. We've had quite a few people sign up to speak. I'm not sure you meant to sign up on this sheet, though. We are having 3 public hearings tonight. You are entitled to speak for an unlimited amount of time at one of those public hearings. If you speak during the public forum, you will have 2 minutes, and only 2 minutes. And it's the 457 Highway, Hoffman Farm, and Sutton Road are the 3 public hearings. That means you have unlimited amount of time to speak on that issue. So I'm just going to kind of go through this list, and if you don't, just kind of wave at me that you don't want the 2 minutes, you're going to do it at a later time. Linda Lyman,
So you're saying I can speak for 2 minutes now?
2 now or unlimited later?
I can speak longer? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. On which issue?
I am on a public hearing case.
If it's a, yes, ma'am, you can speak unlimited time later. Well, that I can't tell. Matters how long people take, how many people want 2 minutes. That'll tell you how fast we'll get to the next one. I don't know. Probably 10 minutes from now. All right. Shirley Collins, I imagine you're here for Hoffman Road? So you'll wait to the public hearing? James Parks. Dwayne Pinson. You'll wait? All right. Charles Myers, public hearing. W.K. Davis, public hearing. Deborah Davis. Rhonda Kay. All right. Nora DeHare. I know you were up for your 2 minutes. Go ahead. That's because your item's not on not a public hearing tonight, so.
Mr. Johnson, Tom Roper, I retained to represent her when we have an opportunity when that matter comes up to address an issue not in a public hearing.
You will not, no, sir. This is your opportunity.
Johnson, earlier I had discussed with Mr. Roddy and Mr. Blackwell what I thought was going to be a compromise on the rezoning request. If you recall, at the last meeting, the issue was change of zoning to BD3, and Mr. Blackwell made a motion to allow BD3 under conditional zoning that would allow used car sales only with the further stipulation of a 100-foot buffer and a 6-foot fence. I think since then, it's changed to just a 50-foot buffer with a 6-foot fence. I thought a different compromise would be in the making. My client has now said that she wants to go with just the BD3, so that will be the only issue coming up before the council at that time, and would simply ask the council to look at this property in light of the two adjacent properties. There's a BD3 already in existence. There's a UD, and the rezoning of this would simply bring that into conformity with the two adjacent properties, which I think is reasonable under the circumstances. The problem is that most of the uses allowed under BD3 would not be applicable to this property given the size of it. It's only 1.53 acres. A department store is not going to go on 1.5 acres. When you eliminate those, we feel like just the physical characteristics of the lot limit it to those that are most offensive, and when you eliminate those, that BD3 is entirely appropriate given the adjacent properties. Thank you.
My name is Noura Dahir. I live at 5089 Downing Drive, Fort Mill, South Carolina, 29708. I would like to start by thanking you for your valuable time. We're here at the final hearing, and I would like just to confirm that I'm thankful whatever it's going to be the decision. And as I said, we think that this property needs to be BD3, to be the same like the adjacent one, to have the same spirit of the adjacent property. And we would like to please the other parties by 50 feet buffer. And as per Mr. Harper, Mr. Roper, lots of business that will not be able to be there listed in BD3. And also there is the zoning ordinance. I think also it regulates the business use of that property. So I know there is the zoning and there is zoning ordinance. It comes to the buffer, the signage, the fence, and lots of things. And I mentioned parking spaces, and I know it's going to restrict the use of that property. And also I would like to mention something about the neighborhood complaints or their point of view. They came and generalized their claims by traffic and crimes and noise, with all my appreciation to their point of view. But I would like to mention something that lots of business in BD1, they might bring lots of noise maybe, and traffic like hospital, it's under BD1. So if we're gonna talk about traffic, noise, and lots of maybe people in there, hospital, banks, schools, so it's there, all of them, it's in BD1. All what I want is that property to not be rendered not usable by by putting lots of restrictions on us, because nobody knows what's going to happen down the road. For any reason, I want to sell it. For any reason, the business, the car lot, it didn't work for me. So I don't want to have that business, that property to not be well defined in case I want to have another business or sell it. So please, just your mercy to be able to render that property usable, as BD1 is not compatible to what's going on in there. The owners, Mr. Herbert, is not being
Mr. Hare, I apologize. I have to give you a couple minutes, a couple of seconds over
Thank you,
too.
I
so
appreciate it.
Thank you.
God bless.
Sean Sides, I assume you're here for the public hearings? Okay.
Chairman Johnson, if I.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe Mrs. Johnson is here, my constituent who we had the vote on a refund of 2 tax years.
Yes.
And I had told her incorrectly after the last council meeting that there would be a public hearing on her part tonight. But Mr. Kendry, we weren't able to get it on there.
So I just wanted to make that clear that I thought she would get to speak tonight, and I believe she's here, but she didn't sign up. She probably didn't have room to sign up on that. But I wanted to be clear about that for her, because I think she's in the audience, that I had told her she could come and speak tonight, and now she's not going. I don't want her to have to sit here all night thinking she's going to get to speak at some point and not get to. So,
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Johnson, are you here tonight?
okay, maybe she didn't make it.
All right, I was going to give her
All
2
right.
minutes, but
Thank
fair
you.
enough. Under the consent agenda, there has been a request to remove item 7 from the consent agenda. That will now become new business number 8. Are there any other requests to move items off the consent agenda? Do we have a motion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, consent agenda is approved. Public hearing, a rezoning action, hold a public hearing on case number 17-15, tax map number 56400000003, to rezone from RUD to RC1, property at 457 Highway 274. Is there anyone here against who would like to speak? One at a time, feel free to just come on up. Please make sure that you are giving us your name and address.
Not a problem. That part I know. My name is Linda Lyman. My address is 527 Harper Davis Road. That would be in Clover. And thank you, Ms. Love, for letting me meet with you today. I've never spoken here before. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for your time and your patience. This is something I'm very emotional about. Harper Davis Road, to the best of my knowledge, is named after the families who own the land that the road runs through. The Harpers live at the front of the road. The Davises live at the end. The Davises have been there for over 4 generations. I'm not sure about the Harpers. I've lived there for over 20 years in peace and happiness. And I moved there from North Carolina for the space, the quiet, and the neighbors. The changes that I have seen in the last 5 years off of Highway 274-49 have brought abrupt and harsh changes to our reality. Highway 49 looks like Cherry Road. It used to be a 2-lane road in a sweet little town. It was open to 4 lanes. There was, in my mind, no planning. It's utter chaos. High traffic. Lots of accidents. I know, I've been rear-ended 3 times. Now it's beginning to spread outward. It's encroaching now up Highway 274 west towards Gastonia and Paul Branch Road. In addition to the road work that is being done right now to help repair this road, and I'm not sure if we're widening it or not, it's been going on for a really, really long time. And it looks like a bomb went off there. I'd like to ask each and every one of you to take the time at some point in your busy schedules and ride that road for us, the constituents that ride it every day. In addition to it being completely torn up, which is all I thought we'd have to deal with, we now have been adding subdivisions at a rapid rate. The traffic is in an utter standstill, just like it is in Fort Mill. If you're coming home from work or going into work, there are certain hours of the day you just don't get on the road. And God forbid if you should have a medical emergency and need help. They'd probably have to copter them in. This is what has happened to this area in these last few years. Recently, apparently, a new developer has purchased property and wants to build more homes within this area. The people that live there now can't get on the road. If I'm not mistaken, isn't there a law that you can only put a street light every so frequently? You can't put it at every subdivision, can you? So what's supposed to happen? Are we going to be like the Jetsons and copter in little cars? Where is everybody supposed to go? Isn't there something that tells you how much density an area can saturate with? And what is it for our area? Specifically, have we studied the volume of traffic increase in this area? Have we put down the lines that tell us how many vehicles go on the road and what kind of vehicles are, how heavy they are? We need to do that. I think we've got too much right now. Have we studied it for safety? What can we do to make the people there that are already there safer before we start adding more people into the mix? We need to do something to help them. We need to take care of their safety in the neighborhoods like mine that are concerned about being able to get emergency services to them. And we're not developers. We don't have a lot of money. We've worked all our lives and bought our houses, and now we're retired there, like myself. And we have just as much right to be there as they do. I don't have a problem with them making a profit. What I have a problem with is not using common sense and good faith and honesty and integrity to God to help the people that are already there. There's also been talk, because their land, from my understanding, doesn't have enough road frontage, and there's already so many subdivisions and entrances onto that road for them to have room within their own property now for an entrance and an exit. So I was told that what was said to them was they were going to make an emergency entrance for like firefighters to hook up to Harper Davis Road. I don't think so. If it's so dense they don't have enough room for an entrance and an exit, guess what? That's a problem, isn't it? But it's not mine. This body needs to consider the people that are already here, the people that have already been paying taxes, sending kids to these schools, supporting the people in these offices, not just the developers. And unless we're careful, we're going to look like every other rundown urban area in this country. That's not what I want for us, and that's not what you want. Think about it. Think about your children and your children's children. Is that what you want for them? I don't believe that in my heart. Please help us. Please consider the facts. Find a way. Help the people who make purchases, but remember the people who are already here. Thank you.
Anyone else against?
Hi, I'm Carrie Hartman. I live at 582 Harper Davis Road. And like my neighbor said before me, I've been there for several years now. We've been there for about 10 years, and the growth in the area is just, I'm sure as you're well aware, just exponentially grown in the short time that we've been here. One of my primary concerns around Harper Davis Road and the secondary exit that's proposed by this developer is Harper Davis Road is a small gravel road. You talk about expanding and the proposal from the developer to expand that from an 89 lot to approximately 150 lots, that's 300 cars. Even if they say it's emergency access only, everybody's gonna get the code. They're gonna wanna bypass the traffic light, they're gonna wanna go to Belmont, they're gonna wanna go to Gastonia, they're gonna bypass all that mess that my neighbor just very eloquently stated is gonna happen. And my kids aren't gonna be able to ride their bikes. I have an 8-year-old little girl. Loves riding her bike on sunny days, which we haven't had too much of, but when we do, she's out there all the time. She's not gonna have a chance to do that. There's gonna be cars flying down this gravel road. It's a state-maintained road. From a liability perspective, cars slam on their brakes, they're gonna slide right off. They're gonna slide into my house, they're gonna slide into my family, they're gonna slide into my neighbors, and that scares me. So I am begging you, I'm not arguing that the developer has a right to build on what's currently zoned. I am begging you, do not allow the increase. Please let my family stay on this road and be safe. And please try to restrict the additional amount of traffic that expanding that development is going to result in. It is going to have a devastating impact on my neighbors and my family that live on that road if you allow that amount of traffic to come through and allow that secondary exit that is proposed by that developer with that plan. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jim Davis. I've been living there at this here place for close to 57 years, where our property joins their property. We already have properties on the backside of us, this Mill Creek Falls. And there's so many people packed in over there, houses bumping together, firemen can't put fires out. I mean, things have just got blowed out of proportion. And then we have people that's come in now, they want to redo this land over here. You council people has listened to this and listened to it and listened to it. And you granted them 184 acres. That's never enough. They want more. Now, why are we wasting all y'all's time to even be here? What's done is done. We have bought it. It's been wrote down. Let's move on. I don't have a problem with them building houses over there, but they ain't no better than I am. I had to have an acre of land to build my house to raise my kids, my grandchildren. My brother's got land there. My other brother's got land there. My other brother's got land. We all got our kids there. We have people coming in down there shooting my damn cows. And, you know, this thing is just going on and on and on. So the more people you bring, you're nothing but stepping on us. In this little small community that we love so much. And every one of you know you're all guilty of it. This is what tires me up. That place ain't Lake Wiley. That place is Bethel Community, period. It's on our fire department. But nobody wants to listen. Am I true? Am I true? It's like we don't have nothing. The rich came in there and changed it all. It's Lake Wiley. No, it's not. It's Bethel. It's our home, where we was raised and born and fought and dug and got crops up to make dollars. And now the rich wants to just come in and just mash us. God forgive me, I swear. So that pushes me against the wall. It's gonna be too bad. That's all I gotta say.
I'm Peggy Davis of Harper Davis Road, 431. That's my husband that just got all tore up about this. And it is, it's bad enough to where we do get that upset about everything because we're constantly having to check our lines of property, knowing exactly where our property is. We've had the power company and the gas company try to come in, water company come in and want to put a pipe across the acreage in the middle of our fields. Well, it won't bother anything. Well, I hope it wouldn't, but I don't want it on our property that our children might get to build on there one day. We raised 5 children on Harper Davis. Debbie raised 3, her and Bill. Lynn and Rhonda, they raised 2. So these young people are out now making their way in life. But us old people, we have a thing to where we have watched this community grow and grow and grow, and we're proud of the community. I don't have to drive all the way to York to go to Walmart. That was a good thing. But the thing is like the lady was speaking earlier, that the traffic volume, and we have to sit at the end of our road and wait for a safe time where we can go out. We do not go anywhere off of Harper Davis Road between 5:30 in the morning and 9:30 in the morning. And it's the same way at 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 7 o'clock in the evening, every day. It is bumper to bumper traffic from Pole Branch Church, no, Catholic Church, all the way up to the intersection and 49, coming on down 49, you can't turn. And it's a single lane right now. I know there's plans for it to be better, but still, right now, and what Lancaster has looked like 274 for about 4 years that I know of. So I'm really worried about how long we're gonna have to wait now to get our road finished in through there from 274, because that's gonna take the volume of that traffic away. But then you're talking about putting 180 homes in there at one point on that acreage that hooks onto ours, that there's, number one, there's not enough homes. If you go back and do the math, there's not enough acreage for the homes to go on. And if you multiply 2 cars times each house that's supposed to go in there, that's a regular family, that's even more volume that's gonna pour on the 274. So, we've asked this before, you've got to get the infrastructure ready before you put in more homes. At least right there. Y'all put them in everywhere. Poor old Walmart can't even keep groceries in the store because there's so many people that have actually moved into Lake Wiley over the last 2 years. How many developments have people moved into? Just several, and they're big developments. So we were promised in 1990, and this is no lie, a representative from here met us on our property at the curve on Harper Davis Road. And we were wanting to get to pave our road. Now, we had already been through years of not, this is one of the oldest roads too in York County. We have a graveyard where people got their pension off of the Revolutionary War. So that goes and shows how old that road that dead ends in my brother-in-law's yard, Harper Davis, has been in Lake Wiley, all right? They promised us, York County promised us in 1990, oh, you're next on the list to get our road paved. And you're more than welcome to come ride our road. It's not. It's not paved. And they come in and they scrape the road, and then they fill in all the potholes that the bus makes and FedEx and UPS. And in 2 weeks, it's down to the potholes again. I play a game. I keep from getting mad. I just keep on going back and forth and dodging all of them. And this is all the way down the road. It's crazy. So that's all I got to say, but some people need to keep up some promises around here that's been going on. And we were told a while back, too, that the property that's in question that was going to be developed, York County was going to require them to put the acreage to 2 acres per house because of the grandfather clause that we're living in on Harper Davis Road. Like Jimmy said, we have to have at least an acre, but I think at one point those strips in there are 2 acres on the upper part of the road. Y'all can check into that, but that's all I have to say.
I'd like to thank the council for allowing me to speak. My name is Dwayne Penson. I live on Island Forks Road, which is just off Pole Branch. I'd like to talk just very briefly about honesty, integrity, and respect. Honesty in knowing what we bought and what its use is limited to, and respect for our friends, our neighbors, for our community, and for the laws of York County. When I bought my waterfront lot in 1984, it was more than an acre. And at that time, it was really expensive for me. I knew it was zoned for single-family residence, and I honored that. I'm in my 80s now. I would love to unlock some of the financial potential of that lot. It's gone up by 400 to 500% since I bought it. But the zoning is specific. It was specific when I bought the lot. It has not changed. How fair would it be to my friends, my neighbors, this community, if I asked this council to rezone my lot to enrich me at the expense of my friends, neighbors, and other members of the community? I think it's wrong. I think it's dishonest and disrespectful. In 1995, I bought acreage just off Pole Branch Road. I went to Rock Hill. I asked them what the limits in building were, and they told me what I was allowed to do. I put in 18 homes in that space. I would have loved to put in 30 or 40. It would have made me much wealthier than God has given me today, but I could not do so. Zoning didn't allow that. Should I have disrespected my neighbors, my peers, my friends, and asked this council to rezone that to enrich me at other people's expense? I submit to this council that these developers, and I have been one, knew what the limits for this property were to be when they bought it. I would ask this council to do no more than to enforce the zoning laws that have existed in this county. Unless you choose to change the zoning laws, we know what we have, we love it, and we do not want to change it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask if we could, this isn't an applause, or there are going to be people who are going to speak against, there are going to be people who speak for. You know, we can all agree, we can disagree and not be disagreeable. It's kind of my thought. Part of clapping and getting excited, this is an emotional issue for everybody, but let's keep rolling along. Who else is against? Keep just coming up one at a time.
Hi, thank you, council, for taking the time to hear me. My name is Sean Sides. I live at 4997 Mill Creek Road in Clover, South Carolina, actually just off of Pole Branch, directly across in the Bluff subdivision from where this area is being considered for development. I just want to make very clear, I'm also on the board of the Homeowners Association for the Bluffs. We have 59 homes in that subdivision, and I know that right now, I put my life, Jesus takes the wheel every time I pull out to go to work in the morning. I am serious. It is the scariest thing in my life. At certain times of day, as others have said, on their streets, it's the same thing for the Bluffs. You cannot even turn out. You have to wait for someone to let you go through. And then if you're lucky, you're looking over your shoulder. I won't even take my wife's car because it sits too low to the ground at certain times of day, and I'm up in a truck, and I can actually be able to see the cars going by. The thought, I'm new to the area. I just moved here in June. I apologize in all respect to the people that have lived here a long time, and I'm one of the people coming into your community, and I very much appreciate you having me. At the same time, I moved from Frisco, Texas, and I say that because that is the fastest growing community in the United States. When we moved in Frisco in 2005, it had a population of approximately 80,000 people. When we moved in 2013 to come here, it was over 170,000. That's the kind of growth I've experienced. I've seen what it does to communities. It was one of the reasons why we moved here. One of my first experiences when I came out to look at our property while it was being built was to actually drive on 49, go across Buster Boyd Bridge. I made the mistake because I got thirsty and I wanted to go get something, so I went to Chick-fil-A in Steel Creek, and I got a milkshake, and I turned around and realized I was coming back to go look at the house again at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It took me almost an hour, hour and a half to get back over the Buster Boyd Bridge to get back to the property and look at it. I thought that was just, I must have just had a bad day. I thought, well, how bad could this possibly be? So then I turned around, and today I saw the thing I never saw before. I decided that I would come home early for work. I work in Uptown, and I thought I would come home early And I left probably, I guess it was probably around 3 o'clock, and I got to the Buster Boyd Bridge. And I couldn't understand what was going on. There apparently had been some sort of incident or construction or something. It was shut down. It took almost a full hour to get across that bridge to get back to home. And at one point, I was sitting there stopped, and I saw the darndest thing I'd never seen before. And in hindsight, it scares the bejesus out of me. A fire engine went on the wrong side of the road across Buster Boyd Bridge. And all I could think of is I'm sitting there going, I'm screwed. If there's a fire disaster on the other side of the bridge and we need emergency services, and that's what it comes down to, and it takes me an hour, hour and a half just to get across that bridge to get home, I don't know what y'all are gonna do. So I'm asking the council to please consider not approving this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Becky Barnes. I live at 185 Autumn Falls Drive in Clover, South Carolina. I've lived there 2 years. I lived 10 years before that in Fort Mill. So I've seen what this does when you've got unchecked growth. Because for me to get into Fort Mill from the bridge where the Cascades are to Nation Ford High School used to take me 20 minutes. If I go now in the morning when I'm meeting at a school with a school team, it can take me an hour and a half. I met this morning with Sheila Quinn, and she had some interesting information that's relevant to this. Right now, the Clover School District does not have enough buses to transport the children we have. The proposal is to bring this from 89 homes to 140, which would add about 60 homes to the mix. That's an average of one child per home. Usually, most homes have 2 children, 3 or 4, depending on it. So that's going to add another 60 kids to the school district. As it is, there are children that get out at 3:30 that don't get home till 4:30 or 5 because buses are having to go, drop off in one subdivision, and come back. If we add another 60 to 100 kids to the school district, what we're basically going to have to do is we need more buses. That means another round of kids that are not going to get home for an hour. We also are going to have to add at least 2 classrooms to maintain that for the 60, because we're talking about 25 kids, which means more teachers. And realistically, because I'm a special education advocate, it also means that you're going to have more funding, because you're going to probably have 10% of those kids with special needs, and that means another classroom with another 3 to 5 specialized teachers. That is a problem, because in the state of South Carolina, we already have a teacher shortage, and special ed teachers are even worse. It's going to be hard to maintain and support this in our school systems. It's going to affect everyone in the school negatively, because we can barely keep up as it is with appropriate transportation and finding teachers and space to educate the children in the Clover School District currently. So I am asking the district, after I spoke to Dr. Quinn this morning, and she is at a meeting for the school board, to please keep it to 89 homes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Randy Woodward. I live at 3353 Schooner Lane in Clover, South Carolina. Chairman and council, thanks for having us to public hearing tonight to speak. Following the act of those that have already spoken, I'll tell you I'm not a public speaker really. So all I ask first is don't turn the lights off on me. I'll just do my best here, okay? My thoughts are this: quality of life, safety, property values. I'm pro-business as much as anyone. Anyone that knows me knows I have a life of that. And I'm happy for growth. I'm happy for businesses to grow themselves. What I see that everyone sees in the area is we're at a standstill on these roads. 49 is impossible. The bridge is impossible. It already is there. So I don't have a life of road planning, traffic management. I don't know that. What I do know is one part of my life somewhere I was a planner and understood that at some point, like at 90% of capacity, at 95% of capacity, you reach a critical mass. We're already there. It's where we are at a standstill, literally. What does that mean then? It means any of us coming home are sitting there fit to be tied. and we're gonna come home to our families that way. We're gonna go to work that way. Stress is just through the roof. None of us need that. It's not what we're bargaining for when we came to this world. I think it's a crying shame, all the building that's already been done to the extent that we've gotten to where we are. When I talk about a critical mass, I sure hope that we're not doing more to exacerbate this already dire problem. Safety, a couple of people have brought it up, but, you know, life is precious. I've seen too many people lately, maybe I'm at that stage of life where more and more are having health problems, and dying, you know, having problems, and we need to have access to services, fire, ambulance, and you know what, right now, I can tell you, as we just stated, it's dire. Finally, the last point is, again, I don't know that much about traffic density and how that all works. I can say that I'm a cyclist. I've had 3 friends killed this year, and it sure makes sense to me that traffic density would be pretty important for that too, and that's near and dear to just my heart. But I guess I'm speaking for everyone when I talk about quality of life, safety, property values. No one's going to live here, want to live here, with what's happening. It's pretty bad. Thank you for having us. Appreciate your giving us a time in this public forum, and I guess that's it. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Deborah Davis, and I live on Harper Davis Road. And I can remember the Bethel community when there was no grocery stores. No grocery stores. And the only convenience store we had was Mama C's. And the bridge was only a 2-lane road. And the bridge was, you really had to be careful if you had too wide a vehicle going through there. But our dirt road is, we can't get past it, 2 cars get past each other because of the main potholes. We got one that's over a foot deep now. Yeah, where the post office and all that have to drive through, the mailman. And they just put new rock and everything on it not even a month ago, and it's already potholes. But my thing is, we get people down there all the time that don't live on Harper Davis Road, and they keep wanting to go on down through our land. No, there's something down, no, there's not anything down through there. And we've got really some rude people down there quite a few times. So, you know, the entrance that you're gonna put, you know, with that new housing development, number 1, we're gonna get more strange people down there, and our road hasn't had too many robberies on it, but it has had a few at the top of the dirt road, but down on the end, we've been blessed. We really have been. And we're at the very end, a dead-end road, and we had a strange guy come down there, and, oh, man, it was weird. But anyways, yeah, it was really weird. But the thing I want to iterate is the infrastructure. We have no kind of sheriff, deputy, satellite offices or nothing like that. Now, we've got our volunteer firemen and we've got our volunteer rescue squads. And that's all we have. So you're going to be bringing in more people, and you don't even have the security or the medical facilities that we really need. We don't even have an emergency satellite anything. We got to go all the way up Steel Creek or York or Rock Hill, which I'm refused to do, or we can go to Gastonia or Charlotte. So think about that one. Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, honorable members of council, county staff, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Perry Johnston. I live at 5001 Lake Mist Drive. Kind of give you a little different perspective from what some of the others have. And I've marked out a lot of things, so I'm going to try to condense this down. I've sat in your chairs between 2003 and 2006. When I was here, this property owner approached me and said, will you be receptive to rezoning this to a higher density? And I said, absolutely not. Now, this was back in 2003 to 2006, but he purchased the property anyway. And my assumption is that he thought he would sooner or later get it rezoned. It's been going on now for, I guess, about 14 years. And a rezoning or a public planning request has come up in my terms. Tom Smith, who preceded me, Bruce Henderson, who preceded him, Council Lady Love, who has now seen it, I guess this is the second time, that some semblance has been brought up to you. How many more times do we allow this to continue to come before us? And just for the sole purpose of increasing density. I'm not going to talk about the traffic and other things that these folks have talked about, and they're all exactly right. Property was purchased knowing that there was 89 home sites available for it. And it's already been addressed. Mr. Penson, thank you very much. You said it very well. You did not ask for rezoning just for the sole purpose of increasing your profit level. It's very admirable. This rezoning should only occur when the results are favorable to the county and the surrounding neighborhood. I see nothing that will make this favorable. I see everything that will make it less favorable. This property has 2 blue line streams running in it. It's heavily forested on both hardwoods and pines, laying along gullies feeding the backwaters of Mill Creek. Trying to fit 149 homes now is 149. It has been up to 300 and some on other iterations of this same occurring thing. Even if 149 is way out of line. We can't fight by right development. Put 89 homes on it if that's what it's going to be, or sell it or donate it. Make it a conservation easement. Take a tax credit. Mill Creek is taking all the silt it can take. It's been proven through the development that has already occurred on it. The development has severely impacted the water depth in the back of Mill Creek. We're currently working on Pennies for Progress. I'm anxiously awaiting to see what the results of siltation on that's going to be, although the siltation devices are in place are very good. It's still going to silt, we know that. The complete shoreline on this property in the back of Mill Creek has been classified by Duke Energy Lake Service and FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, as environmentally sensitive. And the mass grading required for this rezoning request, it's not a rezoning request right now, would only have additional negative impact on the already critical area of our lake. It is not incumbent upon this county council to help a developer increase his profit level. And that's the only reason to have this thing rezoned. The county council has been looking for ways to slow down growth in the fastest growing areas of the county, including Lake Wylie. And one of the simplest ways is to not rezone in this case. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you.
Anyone else against?
Council members, thanks for having me. My name is Kyle Crow. I live at 320 Inland Cove Court in Clover. Unlike many of the people that spoke this evening, I'm pretty new to the area, but I've been in the county for about 10 years. Was in Fort Mill previously and saw the growth get out of hand there. I'm a civil engineer by day, concerned citizen by night, and this is one of the instances where if this been my client, I would have tried to educate them about the concern going forth with this project. I wouldn't have represented them tonight had I been asked to. I think it was interesting that there was a presentation tonight about the AAA status for the county. That shows how good the county's doing financially. To me, that shows there's no benefit to the county to to increase the tax base with another 60 homes. I also find it amusing that there's a sign in front of this development that says Pennies for Progress, funded by the citizens of York County. Basically, the developer is going to go use all those funds, those pennies, to build a road system to support their development. As I said, I'm a civil engineer. I'm as pro-development as anybody can get, because without it, I wouldn't have a job. But I also try to educate that use by right is there for a reason. There was some thought put forward at some point for the density on that property, and I don't think there's anything that's been presented that I've seen for this case that constitutes a higher density. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Billy Hagner. I live at 1901 Voyager Road. I do live in the Lake Wiley area, but I don't live in real close proximity to the property we're talking about. But I just want to make a couple of quick comments. I agree with a lot of what the people were saying, definitely about the traffic issues, that they're not going to be getting any better, even with the new roads, which will be completed in several more years, probably with additional subdivisions. They're going to be loaded up too, just close to where they are now. But the big thing I want to talk about, y'all are changing the zoning from RUD to RD1, to RC1. And in that process, RUD, you can only have, the density is a 0.5, which means you can only have a total of the 89 houses, I think was originally proposed. When you go to the RC1, of course, it jumps from 0.5 up to a density of 1, which means you could have up to 178 houses. So I don't know if y'all are putting into this rezoning some restrictions on what's being proposed. I'm hearing like 40 or 60 additional houses, but you could still go all the way up to 178 houses if it was to be sold down the road and y'all didn't put restrictions on it. The other thing, which I think is a big item too, is the lot size. The lot size is a 1 acre minimum on the RUD, whereas when you go to the RC1, it drops to 2/10 of an acre. And and I don't know if y'all put restrictions on that either. But here again, I have issues with subdivisions that have that small of lots. First of all, most of the time they do clear cutting and they do major grading when they install those type of lots because it's more economical. The other thing is people do not have any place to park the cars. And the majority of the cars in these subdivisions, if they have any company or they have 3 cars, they're out in the middle of the road. So that's 2 big items. And the other item, this is in very close proximity to the lake that we've talked about. And here again, we've talked before about overlays and things like that where we had a minimum lot size within a certain distance of the lake. It hasn't taken hold, but we have talked about it a lot, and I still think it's very important that you do have a sizable lot close to the lake so we minimize the environmental impact on the lake. Thank you.
Anyone else against?
My name is Grant Dudarian. I live at 936 Thorn Ridge Lane in Lake Wylie. I just want to echo everyone's sentiments. I am against the expansion of this development. I actually work for a builder. I've been in Lake Wylie for 15 years. I was here before the bridge, the Bustard Bridge was expanded. Traffic was terrible then, and it's terrible now. And then when you add the expansion of the bridge over Mill Creek, that is not going to help at all. I mean, that is going to be just as bad. And I also echo the sentiments of adding additional homes and adding additional people, cars, et cetera, is going to be not only a safety issue, I think it's just as important to take into account the impact it's going to have on Lake Wylie. The reason we're all there is because of the small town feel. Obviously, I'm about pro-growth as well. I work for a builder. But at the end of the day, I think you guys should really consider rejecting this, this request. I just don't think it's good for Lake Wylie, and I don't think it's good for the people of Lake Wylie. Thank you.
Hello, my name's William Davis, and I live on Harper Davis Road down at the end. Been down there for well over 50 years. That area right there just cannot handle any more traffic. That land right there that they proposed on, they got it listed as 178 acres. 18 years ago, I leased that property from Crescent Resources, and it was on my contract. There's only 168 acres in there. I don't know how they grew 10 more acres out of a swamp down there. But the traffic's terrible. Everybody knows if you go down through there at a certain time, you're gonna get run over. I was sitting in my driveway the other day trying to pull in, and I heard tires squealing. Looked in the mirror, and here come a truck that had to go across the incoming traffic over in the grass to keep from hitting me in the butt. The traffic's awful around there. It's just grown too much, too many people in that area. Now, when my dad gave me some land for my house when I built it, he had to give me 1 acre. I had to give my son 1 acre for his house, and there's no reason them people should be able to put more than 1 house per acre on that land. That's all I got.
I do not want to discourage any more of the against. But if there's not any more, is there anybody else for against?
My name is Thomas Frederick. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. I do live on Harper Davis Road, immediately abutting the subject property. All this green is all RUD. And then, of course, the subdivisions are on each side in yellow. This zoning change will affect this whole section covered by my hand. Harper Davis will be left with 1 little sliver of RUD. I have studied the requirements of RUD in RC1, but so has your planning department, and I'm sure they've advised you appropriately. I grew up milking cows and managing manure. I came here and purchased an existing property on Harper Davis Road 8 years ago because of the rural character. That's why I came here. That's why I pay taxes here. That's why I deal with a miserable gravel road. It's dirt, and it splashes mud everywhere the instant it rains. That's okay. It's worth it. There is no way that we could add any more traffic to Harper Davis Road. Surely your attorneys will advise you against that. It's got to open you to a lawsuit, I would think. The intersection of 49 and 557, totally overloaded. One of the reasons I bought this property, it was 22 minutes to work. Any time of day, morning or night, peak or off-peak, 22 minutes. It's now 40 minutes, assuming there's no accidents. I'm burning more gas, low greenhouse, blah, blah. The investor knew what the zoning was when he invested. It's just not right to change the rules on everybody else. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, members of the council, support staff, my name is Wilbur Parker. I live at 3008 Foggy Hollow Lane, Lake Wylie. And I'm against the idea of increasing the number of homes in the neighborhood for a number of reasons. One is that the school system here will not support it. We're short of teachers now, Someone mentioned a moment ago, we're short of school buses. The classrooms are getting more filled with students. And the school system will not support a great influx of people in the school. We want people to go to school, but we want them to have a good education when they come. And I just want to tell you that the schools won't support support more homes like they're talking about building. We also do not have the medical facilities we need. There's no place for anybody to go, locally to get some help, unless it's during the hours that a doctor may be in an office around here. There's no medical facilities where somebody can go, and let's say, go to Gastonia or to Charlotte to get the help they need. There's not the support of the ambulances. They're not the support of the public facilities such as fire trucks. Needless to say, we don't have enough policemen to continue to expand the area. I don't know what caused the traffic jam this afternoon coming in on 49, but it took me an hour and 40 minutes to come from Steel Creek area to my home. An hour and 40 minutes. I wish I'd have known this gentleman down here that got home in a shorter time. I'd like to have ridden with him. It would save me some time. But we don't have the police or the support from the police department to expand the neighborhood as they're talking about doing. And talk about safety, it'll be more demands for the police. As much as we don't like it, to be on the scene, we're going to have them. We don't have them currently. The roads have already been addressed well. Even if you make 5 lanes out of 274, all it's going to do is invite more people to come on it. We ought to just seesaw building in the area until we get North Carolina to build that extension from about where the circle is out there over to 485 and give us a relief, because people that are out there are coming down this road, and there's just more and more people using the roads here in Lake Wiley, in the area. And if we build better roads, there's just going to be more people using them. It's not really going to help us that much. I can tell you, it's rather thrilled to drive out of my neighborhood once in a while. I mean, I've had to lay some rubber when I get out there, because here's a car coming I couldn't see on the other side of the lane of traffic. And I've had to burn some rubber when I hit the road to keep from getting hit. It's not fun. But I'd also like to tell you that we have the opportunity, you have the opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make this a pristine area, a beautiful area, a desirable area, not a place that houses piled on top. But we can make something beautiful out of it, and you've got the chance to do that. And I think the majority of the people here would probably support me in saying we reject the proposal to increase the number of houses. They probably would agree with me suggesting that we don't need to build anything until we get a system of roads that really supports the area. But we have the chance to build a pristine area, and we can do it if you make the right decisions. And I'd like to remind you that, you're in the position that you're in tonight because we, the people, elected you. We didn't elect you to work for a developer or somebody who wants to build houses. We elected you to support us, the people, we the people. And that's what we expect you to do. I know it's hard decisions sometimes, but this is what you need to do. Support the people who elected you, to look after their best interest. And let's make this just a pristine area. In Jupiter, Florida, when I was there in the early 60s, it was just a little fishing village. It wasn't anything you'd take somebody to go see, unless they want to go fishing. But the people of the city wanted something better, and their city council decided they're going to do it. And I'll tell you right now, Jupiter, Tequesta, Florida is one of the most beautiful places you'll ever go to. It is beautiful. It doesn't mean that the council had it made, because they had to stand up to people, businesses that wanted to do things that wasn't according to the rules, but they stood their ground. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate them. And I appreciate you standing your ground for we the people. Thank you.
I'm almost afraid to ask. Any other against? You have.
Excuse me. My name is Tim Reed. My wife and I own the South 40 Farm. That property joins us. If you let them build a lot of houses on there, it's going to ruin the value of our property. We get letters all the time from companies wanting to buy our farm. It's not for sale. Less than a month ago, I got a letter from a company in Virginia. They wanted to go into partners with me. They said that they would cut the streets in there, do all the paperwork, all the legal work, and we put houses on them. We shared profit. My farm is not for sale. Me and the Davises and the Johnsons have lived there since 1960. When we lived there, it's absolutely wonderful. Now, my wife's got to go to the doctor on 21st at 8:10 on Providence Road in Charlotte. We'll have to leave home at 4 o'clock to beat the traffic. There's too much pressure in Lake Wylie now on all this stuff. And if you open this up and let them build much more houses, we don't have enough schools, we don't have any facilities to take care of the ones we got over there now. And it's going to get to the point where the county just can't stand to keep all these people up. I'm telling you. The tax money would be good for the county. But the other pressure they put on it, it's not going to be good for everybody that lives there. And it's just breaking my heart. But if y'all let them build them houses, it's going to set a precedent. And never what it is. I'll sell my farm, there's going to be that many more houses up there. Think about it. It's up to y'all. Y'all are sitting in the seat. You're in the pilot seat. And when I flew an airplane, my instructor always told me, said, you got to pay attention to what you're doing, because if you have a wreck, you crash this airplane, you're the first one there. And think about this. How many people are y'all live in Lake Wylie? Nobody? Bless your heart, honey. Well, I'll tell you what, in the morning, all y'all get up at 6:30, go up 49, get on 274, and go to Pineville. You'll get there about dinner time. Thank you much.
Anyone else? Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of County Council, my name is Stephen R. McCray Jr. My address is 2 Kings Mountain Street, York, SC 29745, and I am a partner of the law firm of K&L Gates LLP. We represent the applicant in this rezoning, MT Land LLC. I have had personal involvement regarding this 178-acre tract for more than 10 years, during which 4 different council members have represented the district where this tract lies. As a matter of fact, I accompanied one of the owners. It's owned by 3 family partnerships. One of those to speak to Councilman then Perry Johnson, and he at that time made it very clear that he was not in favor of any rezoning of the property. His primary concern was water quality, as I recall. I represented the owners off and on in their pursuit of the appropriate zoning of this tract for 10 years. I'm not representing the owners in this rezoning application, but I have their consent to represent the applicant. In 2015, the owners of this tract made an application for rezoning of the tract to RC1, proposing a concept plan that allowed for a maximum of 250 single-family homes. I repeat, 250. That zoning was voted down by County Council on first reading after a public hearing, during which a number of the neighborhood residents objected to the proposed density of 250 homes. In 2017, the owners entered into a contract to sell this tract to my client, who initially proposed to rezone the property to RC1 for subdivision of 178 lots. The TIA recommended that the developer make improvements to both Highway 274, on which the main entrance is to be installed, and Harper Davis Road, which was to provide a secondary entrance. Also, the TIA recommended a contribution from the owner of $66,000 as further mitigation of the project's traffic impact, which depended upon future pennies for project improvements, including upgrading Pole Branch Road. Because the pennies for project referendum had not yet been held, the Planning Commission voted in July 2017 against approval of the 178-lot plan. Of course, subsequently, the pennies for project referendum was successful, and as a matter of fact, the improvements on which the TIA relied are in the process of being made. Now, as a result of neighborhood meetings after that Planning Commission meeting, and also receiving input from Councilwoman Love, the applicant revised his concept plan to provide for just 149 lots, which eliminated the need for secondary access from Harper Davis Road. As a matter of fact, my client doesn't want any access on Harper Davis Road. And the proposal of this concept plan is only for emergency access, and there will be a gate that can only be opened by the emergency vehicles at that point.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Everyone who wanted to speak against was allowed to speak, and they were not interrupted. I would ask the same. Everyone has a right to come here and voice their opinion. Please allow him to do so. Thank you, Mr. McCray.
Karen, could you please put the other concept plan on the screen? We'll get to that later. All right, sorry. Beg your pardon. Can you hear me now? Although the density of this project has been reduced from what the TIA contemplated, the applicant has still agreed to make the same level of traffic mitigation in the amount of $66,000. The applicant has also agreed to impose certain development conditions on the project. Those development conditions which go way beyond what the zoning code requirements require, include full shield cutoff lighting to be installed along all public roads in the subdivision, a distance of at least 30 feet between all homes, a width of at least 100 feet along the front street line of each lot, and building materials limitations. My client agreed to all of these development conditions at the behest of Councilwoman Love. At the last neighborhood meeting organized by the applicant, 35 residents in attendance voted unanimously in favor of this plan. And we hope some of those people will be here tonight to speak in favor of the rezoning as it is now proposed on the screen. My client brought tonight a sign-in sheet from that neighborhood meeting, and I'd like to pass it around. We'll make copies and one to each of you later. Frankly, there are some comments that are not positive, and some have expressed concerns about the traffic. But at the conclusion of the meeting, all 35 of the residents that live near this project voted in favor of my client's plan. Okay, well, you'll see the comments. I was told that everyone was in favor of it, and you'll see the comments, and you'll see the tally of what they were interested in. And we had hoped that some of those people would be here tonight. My client contacted a number of them, and they said they just frankly were not able to get up in public and oppose their neighbors, who they knew were very much against this. In any event, the support of those 35 neighborhood residents is not surprising, because what this rezoning will do is require the development of the tract into one of the most upscale neighborhoods in the area, where the average lot size will be 26,500 square feet, or more than 0.6 of an acre. The prices of the lots alone will be around $200,000 each. The average price point of the homes will be at least $600,000. There will be beautiful green areas along the lake and highway, which you can readily see. There's additional tree save area along the buffer, the green buffer, along Harper Davis Road, which provides further buffering for the residents who live on Harper Davis Road. And there will be excellent amenities managed by an HOA. These favorable attributes of the proposed development, which can occur only if the property is rezoned to RC1, contrast sharply with what is allowed under the present zoning classification of RUD. Specifically, RUD allows residential structures on 1 acre lots that imposes no requirements on the provision of amenities or restrictions on building materials, such as vinyl or aluminum siding. Now, at the request of the owners, my client last January obtained subdivision approval for an 89-lot development on 1 acre lots under the present RUD classification. So Karen, if you could put that back up. A representative of the owners was to be here, but he called me just before I got here saying that he would be getting here too late. So I'm going to tell you. Oh, he's here. Okay, good. So, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. So I'll say a representative of the owners will speak after I conclude my remarks. I would stress that neither my client nor the owners would be in the picture at all in the development of the property under the present RUD zoning classification. I will point out to you, however, historically, large lot subdivisions like the one on the screen do not turn out to produce upscale developments, where there are no amenities and no building and use restrictions other than what the zoning code allows. In fact, with the HOA having no responsibility to supervise the construction of homes and their upkeep, those large lot subdivisions tend to deteriorate rapidly over the years. There are 3 more considerations that support my client's rezoning application over what is presently in place for this subject property. First, the present 89-lot plan has much less open and shade tree areas along the lake and along the highway. than the 148 lot plan we propose. Well, you can see. And that is consideration of water quality. Second, adding 60 more lots to the subdivision results in only 30 more cars during peak hour traffic. A small traffic impact differential when the huge additional tax base increase is factored in. Third, the present county's land use plan anticipates a density of 2 to 5 residential units per acre on this property. It hasn't been changed, and that was the case when the owners bought this property 15 years ago. If you're concerned about that large density, then the decision should be made to grant this application for 148 lots, where the density is around 0.85. I hope the county council will approve this rezoning application, since it would be in the best interest of York County. The county and the school district stand to benefit greatly, since the result would be a potential increase in the tax base from next to nothing under the present farm use valuation to nearly $90 million at the full build-out. Now, I have some additional remarks that I hadn't planned to make until I heard some of the comments tonight, and these are intensely personal remarks. I've listened to the residents who were opposed to this project. I understand their passion. I respect their views. I'm not so unrealistic to think I've changed any of their minds. And even if I had been a gifted orator, which I'm not, I don't think I could have changed any mind. In fact, I talked to 2 of my friends just before the meeting convened and found them to have a position which is unalterable. So these remarks are addressed to you, the county council. You've been elected to lead us. Your responsibility requires you to discern through all the cacophony of opposing views what is in the best interest of the people of this county. I have been a resident of York County since 1962. That's 57 years. And I've practiced law here for 44 years. And I can assure you that there are many people like me who are serious, responsible, tax-paying citizens who are interested in and have contributed and will continue to contribute to the civic good of this county. And they agree with me. And some of those people even live in Lake Wylie and other growth areas of the county. That, to reject any new residential development beyond what is presently allowed under the York County Zoning Code, is unreasonable when you can take into account all the relevant factors. And in fact, they would agree with me when I say to maintain that position, just as a position, is actually detrimental to the future economic and political health of this county. Thank you for your time.
We're going to have anyone else in favor, but before that begins, I want to remind the crowd, if you were against, you've had your time to speak. When you now laugh or speak out during someone else's, you actually hurt your position greater than you did when you spoke and you helped your position. I would ask that you all remember, this room is where citizens come to speak freely. We hear all positions, good, bad, in between. That is our job. Please do not make our job more difficult and put a poor light on what were, by my count, 19 people who gave good reasons to be against. We are now going to hear the favors. Does anyone else want to speak in favor?
Council, thank you. My name is Jonathan Bickett. I live on Lake Wiley. I am fourth generation. My wife is fifth, and blessed to have a daughter that now is sixth. We live in Boyd's Cove, so we are on the Charlotte side of all this troubled commute that's occurring and filtering over the bridge. One thing I was wanting to say as I went to a previous meeting just to listen, we did not have the opportunity to meet with a builder when they decided to clear cut the land behind the homeowners on the lake. We did not have much input. We did not have any input in regards to the builder working with us who've been there on my wife's side since the dam was built. What I do have to say is, from what I've heard at the previous meeting to this meeting, and I stand kind of on both sides because I am seeing the development that's taken away that I was used to, that my parents were used to, hell, that my grandparents were used to. But you have a builder that is wanting to work and make a development that is self-sustaining. They can't help that the construction costs have gone up, and the development costs in general for infrastructure are high. As you know, on the Lake Wiley side, right there at Palisades, now they're about to put up apartment complexes on 49, right before Buster Boyd Bridge. That is not favorable and for me or my family. It's not favorable for my daughter. After those apartment complexes, right behind it, it's going to be tract housing, single-family residence, all the way up to our property on the lake. We did not have any say-so in this, and my one comment would just simply be to, as I know it's difficult and it's emotional for a lot of people, as it was for me, to see all the trees torn down, knowing that, you know, my daughter's not going to get to run through the woods. Just listen to the builder as they're wanting to work and try to make this the right project. There will be a project that occurs. Growth is inevitable. It's happening. It's because we live in a great area. And that's harsh, but as Charlotte continues to grow primarily, people are moving outside of Charlotte because they can't afford the $1.5 million houses that are in Myers Park. So you move out to a further area. There's only so much land. The land will be developed, and it's up to you on how it is developed. Thank you very much.
Council, I appreciate the opportunity to talk. My name is Charles Myers. I am part of the applicant. And there's just a lot of rumors and stuff going around, it seems, and I just wanted to clarify a few things to make sure everybody's got the real facts. And I did try to call some of the folks to come back out that spoke favorably in the past. And I think, honestly, from what they said, they were a little scared to show up, that it was just a negative thing, and they didn't want to be further involved. But York County defines high density as over three or more homes per acre.
they defined low density as 1.5 homes or less per acre. York County does. And this is in fact at 149 homes on 178 acres is less than 1 home per acre by definition of all the zoning that you use. We had a meeting 3 years ago to decide whether to pursue this or not with council. And we're told that if the pennies for progress passed, and if we kept it to 1 acre per, 1 home per acre, that we would have your support. And so we set out on a 3-year journey, and I'll feel bad if we've wasted everybody's time and money on this, but my job in this partnership we have is to listen. And I've done my best to listen at, this is technically our 3rd public meeting. And I can't tell you of anything that was asked of us that we didn't do. Good point. I want to make sure everybody knows that emergency exit on Harper Davis Road was not required. We don't want to do the emergency exit. It was a request from the Planning Commission or the planning staff to add that, and so we did. That's why it's there. It was a request, as are all these other things, the reduction of homes per acre in general. And I'm sorry to see the dangerous road conditions and hearing about that. I've heard that at this being the 3rd meeting every time very loudly. And I hope that I'm glad the pennies for progress passed, and hope that makes a big difference for everybody's quality of life here and hopefully helps their property values and safety. You know, at the 178 homes, which is 1 per acre that we proposed to pave the Harper Davis Road. But aside from that, let's move on from that. We don't want to interfere with Harper Davis Road and what they have going on. We really just want what they have, which is 1 home per acre on 178 acres. We'll do less than that at the 149 home sites on 178 acres. One other thing I want to clarify is never has it been proposed that there would be mass grading. We've purposely made sure we're leaving trees, buffers, and at the last meeting with Allison Love doing the 30 feet between homes was a great suggestion, and we've decided certainly to do that. So it's not mass grading. And I think that's really all I have. I heard a lot of people say that you should never change your zoning or rezone anything. I just don't know how that would work as time progresses. But I can assure you, we've tried to listen, and it's a high-end project, high-quality, single-family homes. It will be a nice project if you can let us move forward with it. Thank you. Oh, 1119 Charliewood Drive in Charlotte.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor?
Good evening. My name is Bailey Patrick. I live at 267 Hempstead Place in Charlotte, North Carolina. As I was standing in the back, I was questioning whether or not I really should admit who I am and stand up in front of this group. But I am in commercial real estate. I'm a managing partner with MPV Properties. I am one of the main people who pulled together the investment group to purchase this property. Yes, I did meet with Perry, and everything that he said is true. I did know exactly what the property was zoned. And we did know that you had a Lowe's Walmart coming in right across the cove. We knew that you had plans for road widening. We knew you had a land use plan that had a much higher density recommended, far from a done deal, but those were sort of facts that were in our head when we thought that this might be an appropriate site for a higher density residential development. Again, we've been at this for 15 years, and this is not the first time to come before the council, as you've heard tonight, and candidly, I hope it's the last time that I'm involved in this. I certainly expect it to be, whether this is approved or not. I'm very sympathetic to the concerns that have been raised around traffic and around safety and medical services and school crowding. a host of other issues, and we cannot solve those, and I don't think that any developer can solve those, and really that's going to be the collective effort of the whole community and elected officials to hopefully address those challenges. To me, the one message that I wanted to stand up here tonight and say, in addition, I did want to support Charles Myers as the petitioner. He's worked very hard for a long time, and I'm sure he's invested a lot of money, and he's tried to come up with a plan that the community would feel good about. And this is a scary group to speak on the other side. I mean, when I raised my hand to come speak, a gentleman in the back said, the Lord be with you, or something like that. So I remember 3 years ago, I thought the prior council member, he was going to be supportive, and he made the motion for denial after hearing from this group, so I knew that it's an uphill battle. My point to the group is we're sort of over it. I've left here upset and angry in years past. I don't feel that way. I totally understand the concerns of neighbors and community members. And if we end up with 89 lots, sort of a by right plan, then so be it. And as owners, it's a business decision for us. We're kind of over it. We're not going to hold out for more tries. We will sell the property, and I'm not going to issue some threat that we're going to sell the property and try to do something unattractive. We want to do the nicest development we can for this community. And it will be a legacy for this council on this decision. But there are two fundamental differences between the choice. And one fundamental difference is more houses, 60 more houses. That's what this petitioner is asking for. And if that is a deal killer, then vote it down, because that's a plain point. But with that 60 additional house count comes commitments, conditions, restrictions. One gentleman earlier commented he was worried about water quality. Well, to me, staying away from that cove and water with a bigger buffer is better for water quality. There are a lot of issues that are in a development agreement that these buyers of this, developers of this property have negotiated with the staff. They've incorporated comments from my Councilwoman Love. Thank you for meeting with me in the past at Love Jewelry. She spends so much time, as all these council members do, trying to listen and see if they can bring the community together. And the plan that is being proposed gives you a lot of protections, a lot of benefits, higher quality homes that can support higher quality restaurants, a lot of things that go along with those extra 60 homes. And tonight is a hearing. When you ultimately make that decision, your legacy will be what happens on this property. And it's either going to be a really nice 149 lot subdivision, or it's going to be an 89 lot subdivision with the guidelines under the ordinance. And I would encourage all of you, we have time before there's a vote, better understand what those differences are, and you may maybe conclude that, I kind of like the controls that are in place under this 149 lot plan. Or maybe there's some more that this developer and staff and council can work out between when a decision is made. I don't know, that's up to them. But I would encourage you to get a little more educated on the differences between the two scenarios, because we as owners, we just want to sell. We've paid taxes and owned it for a long time. You've spoken and we've heard you, and this is our last rodeo. And I hope it's successful, because personally I believe it is a much better plan at 149, will be much better for the community long term, doesn't solve your traffic issues, doesn't solve school, may help bring health care in sooner, who knows. But that's my one point, is get a little more informed and understand the differences, and maybe people like Barry might have some other suggestions that could help make it even better. And I sincerely appreciate your time.
Anyone else in favor? Yes, sir.
Larry Burton, 6620 Gardner Lane in Charlotte. I'm here because I know all the people involved in the project. I work for a home builder. I've been in the development business for probably 30 years. I was asked to speak for my knowledge of development and also good land use. This particular plan is about as poor a land use that you could actually have for any type of development. There is no open space. It would not allow for any type of water quality. It is just a bad use of property. If you ask anybody who is a land planner who does sustainable development, this is not sustainable development. When you look at the other plan, it allows for conservation and open space. I think you strongly need to consider to do what is right for the land, and the other plan is what is right for the property. Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Do we have a motion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none. Hold a public hearing for case number 19-04, tax map number 40800000063 to rezone from AGC to RUD, property located at 526 Hoffman Farm Drive. Is there anyone against?
My name is Shannon Hall, and I live 2408 Inkberry Court, Clover, South Carolina, and that is in Lake Wiley. I live in Autumn Cove, which is an older development, but I've only lived here for 3 years. In my development, there has been a development built behind it, so you have to go through my development. And there's a lot of speeding, and we haven't been able to get speed bumps. And the developers have made a lot of promises that they've never really kept. So I like the idea of this new, beautiful neighborhood, but I'm worried that developers won't actually live up to all the promises that they keep and they say. So that's my input. And also I like the small town vibe of Lake Wiley.
Anyone else against the rezoning at 526 Hoffman Farm Drive? Is anyone in favor? No, ma'am. We've moved on to the next property. We're on the 526 Hoffman Farm Drive property. Anyone like to speak in favor? Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Shirley Collins, and I preside at 526 Hoffman Farm. It's just a small piece of property that I've had for like 25 years. And my son has been living on it with me in a separate home for about 18 years. All I want to do is divide it, give him what he's on, so I can sell what little bit I have. And that's the only thing I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor of rezoning the property located at 526 Hoffman Farm Drive? Do we have a motion?
Move to close. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Just so that you, for the public's knowledge, we are doing public hearings. So when you hear us vote up and down, all we're voting to do is close the public hearing. We are not voting in favor or against anything. So we do the against, then the favor is allowed to speak, then we shut down that public hearing. This matter will come back, all of these matters will come back before council in a few months or a couple of weeks to be voted on. And you certainly should allow, you can come to those meetings and certainly email us. But for those of you who don't understand what we're doing, we're literally just closing public hearings. Hold a public hearing for case number 19-05, tax map 659000007 to rezone from RC2 to BD2 for property located at 274 Sutton Road South. Would anyone like to speak against? Would anyone like to speak in favor? Do we have a motion? Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Old business. Consider third reading, case number 18-16, tax map number 652-0000114, a major amendment to the Braden Plan Development, property located at 804 Braden Parkway in the Fort Mill community.
Motion
there
to
a mo-
approve.
Second. Is there any discussion? This is in my district, so I will just speak out quickly. I know that this developer has met with the HOA of Braden on numerous occasions. I sat through some of those meetings. I believe all of the issues were worked out. There was a delay in doing the third rezoning, but this is certainly something that makes sense and would be a benefit to the Braden community and hopefully Fort Mill in general. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Rezoning action, consider third reading, case number 18-20, tax map 544000031 to rezone from BD1 to BD3, 1.53 acres located at 102 Weatherwood Street in the Rock Hill community.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve the rezoning from BD1 to BD3 with the following conditions. 50-foot type C buffer must be maintained to separate the auto sales lot to the adjoining residential properties at the rear of the lot. In addition to the 50-foot type C buffer, a 6-foot high opaque fence at the rear of the property must be constructed. Auto repairs are prohibited from taking place on the property. All vehicles located on the property must be in operable condition. The use of the property is restricted to auto or boat sales, heating and air conditioning sales and service, art, craft, or business supplies retail, or other uses allowed in the BD1 district.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Blackwell.
This has kind of been in a no-man's zone for a little bit of history that I had to be reminded of. The property was zoned the property beside it that people implied that I had changed that zoning to BD3. That was actually done in April 1994. And that was when the old Celanese Road was part of this road that's now essentially just a road into a neighborhood. So with the interchange rezoning that was done in 2006, it created kind of a dead man area, and the road goes into a neighborhood. So obviously BD3 will not work with the options that are there, and I won't hit some of them, but y'all are familiar with them. So I met with the owner of the property last week and heard the concerns about the 100-foot buffer and realized with the natural tree area between the house and that property, adding the 50-foot buffer with the fence was more than fair. But it appears that no deed goes unpunished. So there was continued need this, need that. So I then went down through the list of BD3 that I thought would work, that would be practical, because there were some BD3 zonings that just didn't make sense anyway. An event center, bars, adult entertainment centers, broadcasting studios, no offense, Manny, things like that would not be in any way practical. So hopefully this is about as fair as I can be, and it's a very unique situation. It kind of shows why conditional zoning kind of has to be there, even though we don't like to do it. Planning department doesn't like it. But it was the only thing I could come up with to try to be fair to all parties, because the people that own the property will not be able to use it as a home. But at the same time, it's got to be businesses that are fair and equitable to a road going into a neighborhood. So be the requested motion.
Mr. Roddy?
I just have and those changes to the motion was just added, so I don't think the petitioner or the applicant has had time to review those uses. So one, I'm gonna see if we can have this deferred to give them an opportunity to review those uses, because they're the ones in line to purchase the property. And without knowing any kind of future uses that may exist beyond their ownership, I think they should be given the opportunity to review those. So that's one, I'm gonna ask for that in just a second. But two, I just wanted to kind of bring this full circle for the rest of the council and those who are sitting in the audience, maybe watching on TV. And I do have some questions for planning that I would like to go through. I can't see but the top of David Husband's head, but I know he's over there. What this motion essentially does is, if the car lot doesn't exist, the basic use basically rolls back to the prior zoning. And we've never done any kind of rezoning along these type lines where you rezone for one thing, and if that business or doesn't exist down the road, then things roll back. We have never done this type of rezoning in York County before. I just wanted to kind of put that out in the atmosphere because, you know, we're in kind of groundbreaking territory when we've never done it before. So I want to make sure that we're being fair to the applicant today, and we be fair to any applicant going forward. But I have a few questions for, I guess, the top of our planning director's head over there. And it's, I wrote down 6 different questions for you. Are car lots permitted in BD1?
Let me stand up so you can see me. Car lots are not permitted in BD1.
All right. Are we allowed to do a special exception in BD1 to allow a car lot?
Not based on our current ordinance, no, sir.
With the restrictions being proposed, is this not circumventing the special exception for BD1, in your opinion? Since car lots are not allowed in BD1, we're rezoning to BD3, but with the rollback exception. Isn't this basically circumventing the rule that we can't allow a special use in a district where it's not allowed?
I think we've talked some about my reluctance to use place conditions on rezoning. So my thought would be it should either be BD1 or BD3 without conditions. Now, we have, as a practice, put conditions on rezonings, and this is probably, based on conversations I've had with you, it's maybe an extreme case of placing conditions on rezonings. What I don't think we can do is to allow something in a district where that use is not permitted. That's not a condition you can place on the zoning.
Okay.
I think what we have done is place conditions where uses are permitted in a district to further restrict those uses, either by type of use or buffers or landscaping, things like that.
So by voting for these restrictions, is this how you would like for York County to do business as a planning director?
I think I'm on the record as saying I'd prefer we do rezonings without restrictions.
Okay. So you don't support this type of rezoning at this time, to do it the way we're doing it today? Going forward, as a planning director, you would much rather not this council approve similar rezonings in the future?
I would prefer we do rezonings without conditions. If that answers your question, I'm not sure.
Okay. So at this time, what I would like to make a motion that we defer this to the next meeting to give the potential applicants the opportunity to review the uses that will be allowed going forward. I know Dr. Black will just mention some uses that will be allowed, but I think this is new to myself as well as the applicants who are petitioning for this rezoning to spring these uses. And they may be acceptable uses going forward, but I think if they're going to make an investment into the property and spend money, they should be given well enough time to review the intent or the allowable uses going forward, because this just came up. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this third reading to the next meeting to give the applicants, as well as the current owners, an opportunity to review what this property can be used for, because I would hate to just have this floating in the air and about to purchase a piece of property.
There is a motion to amend to defer. Is there a second? The motion fails for failure to gain a second. We are still on the original motion of Dr. Blackwell. Who else would like to speak? I'll come back.
Yes, so, I know there've been some comments made by the people who live behind this, this one little home that we're trying to rezone. And, I'm gonna paraphrase a couple of those comments. One was that, and I've received some emails. One was that they are basically in the backyard of this neighborhood. And I'd like to make the point that this neighborhood is in the backyard of this home. This home has been there for many, many years, and Celanese Bypass has been there for many, many years. And when you move into a neighborhood that is that close to a bypass like that already probably had 2 or 3 of the car lots on it at that time, you need to realize that what's going to be facing that large road, even if it is kind of a little frontage road now, it's going to be something that's business. And there are a lot of things in BD3 that nobody wants near them. So if we're going to start making little changes to BD3 because we don't want an adult entertainment place of an operation there, well, then we need to take that out of BD3, because I don't think anybody wants that near them. Nobody wants to hear barking dogs. Nobody wants a lot of the things that are in BD3. Storage units. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't want. But the fact of the matter is that in some places, you're gonna get those things. And along a commercial road like Celanese Bypass, that's very likely that you're gonna get that. Another comment was that we have too many car lots. Well, you know what? I happen to agree with that comment. But you know what? We're not in a position to say we can't have any more comments. I mean, well, that too, for tonight, that's pretty apropos, but we can't have any more car lots. We don't need any more car lots. Who's to make that determination? Not anybody in this room as an individual or as a neighborhood should be making that determination or any determinations like that. As the chair of the zoning committee, I will tell you that we are looking at BD3 and making some changes to that. And I don't think those changes included pulling out things that we didn't want to live near. Maybe it should. I don't know. David, maybe we'll add that to our next agenda. But I feel like a 50-foot buffer is very fair and reasonable. I feel like a 6-foot-high fence is not asking too much. But I do think it's asking too much, and I think it's a mistake to rezone a property and say, you know what, it's this now, and we want it to be this, but we only want it to be one little part of this. Adding boat sales and adding heating and air, and there was one other thing that was mentioned, out of probably the biggest zoning code we've got, that is a zoning mistake. So if we, and I really don't know why we're looking at this and why we've talked about this so much, and because it just absolutely makes sense to rezone this property. And the first night we heard this, it was maybe 4 or 5 to 2 or 3. And the more we've talked, I think the further down the wrong road we've gone with this. So the business beside this house is a siding business. And the yard is full of siding. It doesn't look that great. You know what? You wouldn't want to live beside it either. So the people who owned this home had an opportunity to sell that property to this siding company. And they didn't do it because they didn't think that would be the right thing for where they've spent their whole lives. But if they had sold that property and that man had come before this council probably would have made the right decision and rezoned it for him to expand his existing business. So who's to say that we don't want a kennel There's got to be one somewhere. Who's to say that we don't want another car lot? This property needs to be BD3. And I think you need to trust in the people who are putting a business there, because you know what? They're not going to want to sell it to a strip joint either. So it's just, you know what? We need to be business friendly. There's a neighborhood here, and there are going to be businesses along the front of it. And it's everywhere throughout this county. It's time tonight to rezone this to BD3 and forget these conditions.
Well, Ms. Love's correct in setting new territory for this council, because that has definitely been set, and I hear this council loudly, and I'll follow those rules. But that being said, there's a litany of things that are BD1. And when this lady came before us with her husband and children, they just made it clear they just wanted to have a car lot to sell cars and raise a family. And I worked with the owner. I heard their complaint about the 100-foot buffer. That was the only concern expressed to me after the last council meeting by them. And then I hear, after I meet with the owner and agree to sit there and move it back to what they wanted, the 50-foot buffer, the fencing was fair. I said, well, that's fair enough. I see how this lays out. And if this was still Celanese Road, you may be correct. But all that was changed in 2006, and with the redoing of the interchange with Heckle, it became just a side entry road into a neighborhood. The zoning on the siding company was done in '94 when that was Celanese Road. The storage facility was UD. It's always been UD. That was long before our time. But this is a situation where I'm trying to respect all sides and not be unfair to any side. And that's the best way I could do that, by the way I set it up.
Mr. Winkler.
Thank you. Couple of things on this. When Councilmember Blackwell made the motion on the first reading to deny it and just to kill it on the first reading, I did not support him on that, and that's his district. Because I felt like that, you know, the neighborhood behind there wanted it to be residential, and I know that property. I drove by it quite a bit. I used to live around the corner from it before I decided to move west and come to the western side of the county and live in York. And I do not believe that particular piece of property, I would never buy it and put a house there, and I don't believe anyone else would. So I believe that the applicants came before us and said that, you know, they just were asking us to please understand that they were wanting to do a car lot to support their family, and that was their whole dream, was just to try to do a car lot here on this property to support their family with a small family-owned business. And so I supported the motion to put it through the first reading to give time for people to negotiate and come up with a better solution. Then on second reading, again, the applicant said they were wanting to do a business, a car lot, and they wanted to support their family and do that, and we had a conditional rezoning suggested with BD3 with the condition of just the car lot. And I beg to differ with some of the comments that council has made that we've never done that before. There's a piece of property in my district just around the corner from here, over on Highway 5, that was BD3 at one point, and we rezoned it, and at least the majority of the council sitting up here, other than Councilmember Hamilton, because he wasn't on the council at that time, voted, we rezoned it to UD with an exception or with a requirement that it could only be used for a pallet company, a pallet repair and boxing company, under that UD, because our planning staff said that type of use was a manufacturing thing and it had to be UD. So we rezoned that property to UD with a limited use of only being able to use it for a pallet manufacturing company. So we have done this in the past. We did it in my district, it was before Mr. Hudspeth came, but we did this in the past in other areas. We've done it in mine. But I supported the applicant for their car lot, and I still support them for their car lot. we talk about trust and different things, and I'll support it with that restriction because I believe that's what they wanted to do. And I supported it on second reading, but I have concerns and questions when we work out a negotiation and we say, okay, we've got this done, and then all of a sudden the measuring stick moves again. The yardstick moves. So we say, okay, I want a car lot, we agree to this, we'll do this, and then all of a sudden, well, we might want something else eventually, and we might. But if so, that can come back for a rezoning, or it can, just like it can if it was left BD1. So I support, I support being allowed to do what we did on the reading and do it as a BD3 with restrictions, because I believe we've set a precedent and done in the past. I understand staff does not like that. It's not ideal, but this piece of property is not ideal. This piece of property has been a holdout in the middle of a bunch of other business for a while. I do not think BD3 and some of the uses that are allowed are appropriate in that small lot and in that area, and that's why I support the restrictions as it was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Like Robert, I too supported allowing this to continue past first reading because it seemed fair to me that this family wanted to put a car lot on this property. It is somewhat disappointing then to move the goalpost, as Councilman Blackwell has worked so hard to try to come up with a solution that would work for everyone and respect all the concerns in the neighborhood. I won't be supporting any full-scale change to BD3, but I think it's quite fair to allow this to move forward with the restrictions.
Mr. Chairman.
One second. Ms. Cox? No. Mr. Roddy?
I have a couple redirects, if I like to call it. I remember the pallet company coming to do the rezoning that we put those restrictions, but we did that because there were an existing business already on the property. The pallet company was already operating at that particular piece of property, and they were out of compliance, and we rezoned it to allow them to continue with some restrictions. I remember that. And two, the applicant didn't agree to Mr. Blackwell's changes at the last meeting because he said it without them even giving them an opportunity to accept them. It was his motion that we voted on. They never agreed to do the rollback restrictions of BD1. So to say that they're moving the goalpost, that's entirely inaccurate. And she even come up after the meeting and asked to meet with Dr. Blackwell, and he specifically told her he didn't see a need. He later met with the property owners, but he has not met with the applicants, to my knowledge, to this day. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But the goalpost hasn't moved. When she found out by reading the minutes online what Dr. Blackwell's motion was to roll back to BD1, that's when she reached out to me to say they really wouldn't be interested in purchasing the property with these restrictions placed on them. Then we started reaching out to Dr. Blackwell to say, these restrictions are not fair. I reached out to David Husband about how this is going. So to say that the goalpost is being moved in the middle of the game is totally inaccurate because the original motion was to rezone to BD3. Second council meeting, second reading, that's when Dr. Blackwell put his restrictions in. The applicants had no idea of knowing these restrictions were coming down the pipe. It wasn't until after they went and read the minutes online to fully understand what council had voted on, and at that point they took issue with the motion. That started the wheels, but if we're gonna make a rezoning, we've done it by striking certain uses in a zoning, not putting a rollback. It's part of what we do to say we can rezone to BD3, but no, we don't want a script joint. We don't want X number. We don't want a gas station. We don't want this. We've stricken uses in a particular zoning, but we, to my knowledge, have not said if you ever sell this car lot or don't use it for a car lot, it goes back to basically the uses that it was prior to this rezoning. I'll stand behind that. I have not, to my recollection, been a part of a rezoning that says if this business goes out of business, and what Dr. Blackwell has done tonight is added a few more exceptional business. He hasn't stricken the uses in BD3, he just added more uses to BD1, in which that's not the way we're supposed to do business. So the whole notion to say we're moving the goalposts, that's Mr. Blackwell's rhetoric to other council members. That is not the actions of the applicant. So let's don't twist the whole who wants what in the middle of the stream. It's what he's trying to do to say he's working with the applicants, which is not. And the whole rezoning with the rollback clauses, that's basically circumventing the rules that allows a car lot in BD1. So my motion, I like to make the motion that we defer this to give the applicant the opportunity to review the uses because they're on the hook to purchase the property if we rezone the property. They have not had an opportunity, so I would like the council to consider deferring this to the next reading so that the applicant who's coming before us can review what's going to be allowed with their property if they purchase it. It's totally unfair for them to purchase a piece of property not knowing fully what they can use it for, and we're about to vote on it to change the use. Maybe they don't want to buy the property with these uses. And I think they should be given full right to review those uses before they spend several $1,000s on this property. So I'd like to ask, at this time, make a motion that we defer this to the next meeting so the applicants can be given full opportunity to review the uses.
I believe that motion is out of order as it has already been made and you were unable to get a second at that time.
I'll second it.
Let
We
me.
have a second.
We've already done it.
We have a second.
I am now recognizing Dr. Blackwell.
I will just like to say that David Husband, the gentleman over the planning department, is the one that came up with this to give me advice on how to best word it to be in line with how we do business here. And that's all I got to say.
You make the motion, I'll second.
Mr. Kendry, before I just bull ahead here, is it a proper ruling to rule Mr. Roddy's motion for a deferral out of order at this time?
That would be in the discretion of the chair. I'm simply deflecting that because it was a motion with a second, which can take precedence over a pending motion because it would ultimately control its disposition, would control the motion that is on the floor before the council. The question of whether he's raised it once without a second, it failed. He now has a second. The pending motion hasn't been read for a vote or repeated for a vote, so I think it would be appropriate to consider it if the chair so chose.
We will consider it. We have a motion to defer and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the deferral say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
No.
No.
The motion to defer fails. We are back to the original motion. I will give one last thought. Unfortunately, when people come before the government to ask how to use their land, this is what you get. You don't get all of it one way or the other. You get the proverbial splitting of the baby, and that is what I think we are about to do. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion passes 5-2. Council to consider second reading of an ordinance to authorize the refund of the county government portion of overpaid taxes for the real property associated with the legal residence identified as tax map number 38800000059 and provide for other matters relating thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, this is the one that I mentioned earlier that I thought Ms. Johnson was going to be here. I told her I thought we'd have a public hearing tonight, and we did not, so it'll be on third reading for her, so.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Love.
So on the first reading of this, I voted to refund the $94, but I didn't know that the cost of doing that would exceed the $94. So on this one and any going forward, because I still believe in refunding, sorry, Kevin, when someone overpays, but on this one and any future ones, I will take into consideration the cost of the refund, and if the cost exceeds the refund, then I would not vote for the refund.
Mr. Roddy.
I'll make a quick comment. We've seen several of these come before us, and I've said, and I'll restate my position. I wish that, I guess, I would like to see our tax assessor be granted some leeway to really handle these, because it does get into a cost prohibitive situation where it costs us more to go through the process than we're actually refunding the taxpayer. I wish we could develop some mechanism that will grant him the authority to grant these refunds without having to go through and do all the public notification, advertising, all that we go through to make these happen. Because in this case, the refund is only $94, but I'm told it's going to cost us almost 3 times the amount for us to go through the process that we have to refund this money. We're the ones in charge, and I think we can tailor something that will be legal and binding if we are willing to give that authority to our assessor. So I'll just restate my position that I think that should be given, that authority should be given to the assessor's office to handle these.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion passes. New business. Council to hold a discussion regarding Pathways' request of a one-time donation to assist with capital needs. Dr. Blackwell requested this item be on the agenda. Dr. Blackwell.
You know, this is something we donated the land on the corner of White Street and Dave Lyle Boulevard to assist, provide a capital facility. We're not in providing money to charitable causes anymore. We kind of got out of that years ago. But this is not really the same thing. This is just money to help them build a facility that's going to provide the efficiencies to cover this kind of needed care in a county in one location, and that way be beneficial to the taxpayers and save probably the taxpayers' money.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the mic on? Okay, here we go. Certainly
I had yours turned off.
You reached and turned mine off. We enjoyed a great presentation last 2 weeks ago about Pathways and what it could mean to this community and how it can help eradicate some of the social issues, homelessness, people needing assistance, and putting everything under one roof. And I think it's a tremendous effort, noble cause for a group of citizens right here out of Rock Hill in York County to put this type effort together to bring this to the community. We need those type efforts. It will be a project that's in my district. I fully support it from the mission, but I did get a couple calls from some people in the community after seeing it on TV, and reminded me that a couple years ago we made a move or a promise that we were going to stop giving money out to nonprofits. Regardless of the cause, regardless of the mission, we set out and made an effort to say we would try to stop giving out money to nonprofits and not-for-profit causes. It makes it really difficult when you have a project of this magnitude come forward that you know is going to do so much good in the community. But we're reminded that we said we didn't want to go down this road anymore. And we sit in a real difficult situation up here, as you've seen, with rezonings, with spending taxpayers' dollars. I think that's why I'm turning gray-headed at 45 so fast. But we're charged with spending your money. And we made I'm not going to say we made a resolution, but we made a conscious effort to say publicly we were going to stop giving out money to nonprofits. And I hate to see us start to open that door again and then close it back for the next group, because we constantly get groups of people, organizations that want us to support them, support the causes. It's as difficult as it is, either we're going to continue to support these nonprofits with your taxpayer dollars and we get to decide who we give them to, or we just say we're going to stop giving nonprofits your tax dollars, because at the end of the day, we're spending the taxpayers' dollars. And if we're going to continue to support nonprofits, let's support them. But if we're not, let's don't open the door this time and shut it behind this particular group. So my speech and my rhetoric is, if we're going to do this for this group, the next group that comes and say, we have a noble mission in this community as well, we are doing Meals on Wheels, we're supporting seniors, we're doing whatever, because let's face it, every group that comes here and says, we're gonna do this to help people in our community is a noble issue because they're doing it at the goodwill, they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And every group that comes and says, we're doing this in the community, I applaud them because they don't do it to get paid, they don't do it to get recognition, they do it because they see a need in the community. But my statement to the other 6 council members, if we're gonna do this for this group, how do we say no to the next group? Or how do we continue to say yes to that next group? So I just wanna put that in the atmosphere. I know we're not voting on it, but when you get a call and a reminder call, and actually it was from someone who's part of an organization who we've cut off from giving money to, how do we go back and say, yeah, we cut you off several years ago, but we're gonna fund this group going forward, even though it's one time? How do we respond to our constituents in those situations? I would love to say write the check. I don't know a specific number that's been asked for. Some numbers been tossed around, but it makes it that much more difficult to write the check to this organization and then turn around and say no to someone else. So let's be mindful and let's be careful going forward with these requests.
I think we have to
Love.
Thank you. I think we have to be very consistent. And I went to the original presentation by Pathways, and we had a great presentation at the last council meeting, and I fully support it, and I intend to give a small donation to Pathways personally. And just in giving this some thought over the past couple weeks and some consideration, I was thinking about the Lutheran Church over near TKK on 160 that provides lunch for, gosh, probably thousands of people a year. And the Clover Area Assistance Center over in Clover, who has some of the same goals and desires as Pathways, you know, and to help people get on the right path and get themselves straightened back out. And, you know, in thinking about those two things, I just was still a little bit torn, but I had a conversation with somebody. I was out at Cat's Paw Winery the other night over in your district. Took me forever to find that place. And there was a couple there who owned Rideability over in Clover, and I didn't go with them, they were there when I got there. But they are building they're trying to build an outdoor arena for their horses. And they deal with special needs children and autistic children, and they have a great program. And they were asking me, you know, what could they do to get this building built, this outdoor arena. It's not even a building, but this outdoor arena. And I said, well, how much money have you raised? And they said they had raised about $90,000. And they did that without what I'm going to call in a nice way, because I like salespeople. They did that in a nice way without salespeople that we all know on council. And so here she was asking me what they could do, and I couldn't say, why don't you come to county council and ask for some money? Because people give to different things. People have different charities that it's in their heart to give to. And I don't think that council can make those choices for taxpayers. You know, you may want to give $500 to the American Heart Association. You may want to give your money to the Susan B. Komen Foundation. These are all great causes, just like Pathways. But I don't think it's right for someone in county government to make that choice on behalf of you. I think you have to make that choice. So if you want to donate to Pathways, please donate. I'm going to make a donation. If you want to donate to Rideability, please do. Do what feels right to you. And in this case, what feels right to me is to not vote to spend taxpayer monies on any of the above.
Mr. Winkler.
Thank you. I have been one who has voted against giving money to some charities in the past, and you know, I think that I've struggled with this. I've spoken with Manning several times and other council members and stuff about it. You know, we do a certain amount to quasi-governmental organizations that help do something that the county does, which is, you know, maybe rehab, different drug rehab, different things like that. That is kind of a county thing. In looking at this, I've talked with our law enforcement partners in the county, and I kind of see this as a quasi-governmental organization for a couple of reasons. One, in speaking to our law enforcement partners, they feel like that this could be something that maybe would help them to not have to pick up quite so many people every year and put them in their housing facility that the taxpayers pay for, instead of being at the Pathways. You know, if we can reduce that by the few, 10, 15, maybe more beds per year that are out at Moss Justice, residents instead of in Pathways, or in our municipal holding facilities, then that's a savings to the taxpayers' bottom line, that we're not having to spend that money on that. This is, if I remember right from the information I looked at and going to the website and stuff, this is about 31 different organizations that are in this one building that they're asking for some money to help get started. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of very good organizations in this county, and I believe Rightability is one. I have personally given to Rightability myself in the past. I actually have had people that I know that their children are special needs and have used the services there. I think it's a great organization. I've served on boards for several nonprofits in the county and serve on one right now. So I do believe in charitable giving. And if they were asking for continued operations money, I would not support it in any way, shape, or form. But because of the fact that I do see this as something that could save the taxpayer some money in the long run, and I see it as a good organization. Now, a concern that I had, and I've addressed it with some of the board members and with Mr. Kimmel, and he's assured me that it would be taken care of, is this is in Rock Hill, and I represent the western side of the county, which unfortunately is a little lower income than some of the eastern sides of the county. And we have some people who would have a hard time getting over there to this facility if they need it. And I have been assured that either York County Access, which we pay some money into, as one of those quasi-governmental things again, we help fund some of that to transport our seniors and our lower income people to doctor's appointments and different things. York County Access is assured they would work with them on this. And also, I was assured that Pathways will have its own transportation. And if York County Access can't get to the people in the time they need, then Pathways will get to them and take care of them. And that was the biggest concern that I had from my constituents in my area. And so, again, we haven't talked tonight about a dollar amount. My support is not an unlimited dollar amount. It's not to pay for the entire facility for you. But the request, as I understand it right now, I do support it. So thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
We've been at it for a while tonight, so I'll be as brief as possible. But like several of my colleagues, I generally share ideological discomfort with providing taxpayer money to nonprofits and charities. However, I do think this one is a little bit different. So one thing that we are consistent on is we all try to do what's best for York County, and we try to save taxpayers money. After speaking with those that are tasked with keeping our community safe, it's very clear that there was a real cost to not doing this. Just back of the napkin math while the rest of my colleagues were speaking, I believe that we know that it costs at least $65 a night to hold one inmate, if that's correct, Sheriff, somewhere around there. That's not counting booking costs and everything else, but that's sort of bare minimum. You can look at $65 a night. If we use Robert's number and assume that this maybe keeps 10 people out of our jail for the year, that's going to save the county $65,000 right there. And that's not counting the cost to prosecute those cases. So there's a very real cost to not doing this, which I think we need to take into account. And I think it's very consistent to say we're trying to save taxpayers money. And this is, like Robert said, sort of a quasi-governmental function that if a nonprofit and the private enterprise were not tackling this issue, at some point, considering the growth of our community, we would have to, and I assure you it would cost a lot more than what will be asked for. So that's my position. Although it's uncomfortable, I think consistent with doing what's best for the county and saving taxpayers money.
Sure. I guess since we're just discussing this, I'll go ahead and put my comments on record. I think I said this last time. We just had at the very beginning of this meeting at 6 o'clock, way back yonder, we had some folks come up and tell us how great of a job that this county is doing, and I'm very proud of the folks that I serve with up here to do things that make our budget very fiscally conservative. We have a AAA rating, and the reason why is because we have great advice coming from our county finance director, treasurer, and we're doing a lot of things to make sure that we save money for the taxpayer. And that's extremely important for someone who is a conservative. In this case, and I do understand the points that were made by other council about if you open this door, you're going to let them all in. I think the way we address that is to assign a certain percentage of if there are surplus funds, if there are, and we've done this in the past actually. When I asked the question originally, there was the response of 1% went to dealing with quasi-government entities that help deal with some core functions of what government's doing. I'm not saying that we do this every year. I'm saying that it's dependent upon our treasurer who says, yes, there is a surplus. Yes, you have spent all of that money to pay off the debt and you've put that aside and there still is a little bit left, then I think that this council ought to decide where that goes, and I think that it should go to the place that most benefits the community, and I do believe that this is different in that it allows for more efficiency when it comes to serving the public. This is 33 entities that will benefit from this. This is a one-time extension for capital, and so I think that we ought to make a decision about that as to whether or not we're going to earmark a portion if there are funds available. If we're not going to give it back to the taxpayers, then we ought to use it to something that's going to help the taxpayers, maybe not on the front end, but on the back end by making sure that we avoid folks going into a system that's more costly.
I'm able to count, and I can clearly see where this is going. I will add this. At this point, any amendment to the budget would require 3 readings, and certainly we amended our own budget in January to reflect that we were taking all the surplus funds and paying down our debt, as I recall. I believe that if it is the will of the council to move forward and begin to give money to nonprofits, then we will have to have this as part of a larger budget matter, and it will have to go through a full budget, and because you just can't reach out and say, here's X amount of dollars. That money's not there. It's earmarked for something. We will have to un-earmark it, which means this council has to have a discussion on what you don't want to spend it on. But we will certainly have that discussion as we go through the budget process. I know that is probably not on the timeline that Pathways had considered, but I don't know, other than immediately trying to start amending budgets at our next meeting to get a dollar amount, I'm not sure how we get there. And so that is my only caveat to this. I'm also going to point out that number 2 on new business is to talk about giving $200,000 towards a safe house for a new creation of York County, which deals with human trafficking. They've come and they've spoken to us as well. This is the slippery slope that I believe this side of the table is trying to warn us about. Every charity, every good charity is going to come along and they're going to say, we want your money now. You're a donor, and we could be a big donor. We have the resources that they are going to want that. And I think that is something we're going to have to be very vigilant with, and whether it is a percentage or how we want to earmark that. I wonder how you're going to, how do you pick one charity over another? I have to be very honest. The charities that I give to tend to have something personal to me, that connection. I give to an organization called CART, which is Coins for Alzheimer's Research Trust. 100% of all of their money goes there, but I do that because my grandmother died from that disease. I give money for cancer research because my mother-in-law passed away. You tend to give in that way. think as the seven of us have this great debate on how we're going to funnel money to charities, and especially if we're going to do it in large terms, on what is the criteria that we're going to use. And I think we need to spell that criteria out so that as organizations come to us, they have an expectation of what they can expect out of us, as opposed to it's just, oh, this is the charity of the day. And I'm not saying that Pathways is, but I think we need to be very careful. And I will ask Mr. Madden, is this something that the council can consider soon, or is this part of a budget process?
We're in the process of the budget right now. Bill and I are meeting with department heads actually this week. So it would be good timing to make this part of the budget. What I can do is kind of put forth with you all a little bit, if I'm hearing what Councilman Cox said, of our surplus last year. You know, we have a lot of needs and wants. I think Friday there's some needs and wants from the sheriff, wants to build something on the eastern side of the county for booking center. So it is a matter of where our priorities are going to be. But I'll give you all a breakdown of our surplus and sort of where our needs are, and then y'all can decide in the budget process how much y'all want to put towards one or how many of our charities.
Fair enough. You have a question?
Yeah, because I know our unrestricted fund balance was 23 million, something like that.
I believe we ended the year with a fund balance around 28% of our expenditures, which would have been a little higher than $23 million.
A little higher than 22, unrestricted. So I certainly get the concerns here. I don't want to be myopic in what we're doing or considering, though, because this is taking care of a large swath of needs in the county in one facility. And we can kind of try to say we are concerned about it or don't want to support it, but I'd rather just people say, I don't want to support it, instead of kind of trying to drag it down a different road. Because I agree that if we start bringing in every charitable organization and saying how much money you need, because we got out of that business. But my point is, this is a capital building need, not another need, and the one that's number two may be capital. I don't know. Hadn't heard it yet. Okay, it is. But I guess we have to set priorities a little bit, but because we do it for one doesn't mean we have to do it for all. We have to sit up here as 7 elected officials and use our judgment in what's proper. I don't want us to sit here and, like we got out of the charitable organization business again, but I'll allow this to kind of foster through the system a little bit, although when I requested it at the last meeting, I said for us to either vote this up or down at this meeting. But I'll accept the will of the chairman on this one.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't fully anticipating just the discussion, but like I mentioned earlier, this will open a door, and I don't want anyone from Pathways to think I'm against it. I was just putting it out there. If we do this for Pathways, how can we say no to other organizations who come with similar requests? It was no knock against Pathways. This is in my district. It's going to serve probably a lot of people in my district. So if it's possible to do, and we're going down this road, I fully support it. But if it's going to be something that we say, hey, let's do it for Pathways and not so much for any others, then we get into that picking the winners and losers. And I don't want to be a part of that process. If we do this, let's wholeheartedly make a conscious effort. If we're going to set aside a certain amount of our budget to do it, let's do that part, but let's don't open the door this week and close it next week and then go forward. Then we get these requests, and we have to continuously, repeatedly tell other organizations that's not a good enough cause, or you don't have what it takes to get funding from us, because it's not our money. It's not my money. I pay the same taxes as you guys sitting out there. We're taking money from everyone that pays taxes, and it goes to them. So I want to make sure that we're doing right by everyone and not just right by the 7 of us. So.
Council will hold a discussion regarding the Safe House for a new creation of York County. That is an organization, as you may recall, appeared before us several months ago talking about human trafficking and the need for a safe house for human trafficking. That request at that time was $200,000. Just as we've had this discussion here, I think we've kind of beaten what we want to do with charities. I'll move on, but I did at least want everyone to realize that is a request for capital of $200,000 to allow them to have a safe house. council to adopt a resolution endorsing a public-private partnership initiative in furtherance of county economic development pursuits and authorizing the amendment of the Code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 153, Sections 153.3 through Sections 153.34 of the County Code, in furtherance of a P3 initiative, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Cox?
I have spent a lot of time looking at this, and I do believe that there is some merit to changing the way that we do this. My concern, though, that I can't just seem to shake after looking at the bylaws and the proposed employee handbook that accompanies this, is why are we doing it and what are we gaining? I fully support the request to do a strategic plan. It seems to me from the discussion that we had, that needs to happen. We need to have a strategic plan. We need to understand how this is going to work. But I'm struggling to be able to tell constituents, why did you do this when what you're doing now, what David's doing now is great. What our economic development group is doing now is great. We have 2.9% unemployment. We have a lot of people that are sitting at the table that are participating in the discussion. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As I've looked at this, my concern is this. With the funding, we're still asking the taxpayers to pay over $700,000, which is 93% of the committee's funding, but we're reducing the county public participation on that board by half. We're allowing select group of businesses to basically pay money to get a seat at the table, and that is very difficult for me to explain to folks why there is a pay-to-play sort of program that we're putting in place, and how is that going to benefit us? How is that going to be better? My concern is also that not all of the districts have representation. We're eliminating 7 members from the existing board. We're putting a lot of that power into a chair, which we have a fine chair, we have a great chair. But what happens later on when the chairperson is allowed to appoint 4 of the 6 of the county appointees, and the other 2, one is the York Tech and one is Winthrop. The rest are folks that pay money to be a part of that board. I guess the fundamental problem is that we don't have a strategic plan, and I fully understand why we need to do that. I fully support that. I'm just struggling to understand why we need to do this next step, and if it's going to result in anything better for the taxpayer. It also looks like, from looking at the bylaws, that it looks like there may be additional costs, hiring new counsel, HR costs. I'm not sure I understand the impact to employees. So this is where I'm struggling, and I think it goes all the way back to the strategic plan. And so I think this is a struggle for me, and I'm going to have a problem passing this.
Mr. Winkler?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak up as chair of the council's Economic Development Committee, and also as a member of the committee that was put together to look at options for economic development and see if there was a way we could improve them or not. I do agree that we've got a great problem. I sit on the board for the Association of Counties to represent York County at the association meetings. And I see a lot of county council members come from counties who don't only not have our growth, they are shrinking. Their population's going down, they're losing businesses. I don't think we've lost a operating Walmart in a while. And again, that's not the economic development we're talking about, but it shows what's going on. But we have a county just a little ways south of us, between here and Rock Hill, or excuse me, between here and Columbia, who lost a Walmart and a hospital in their county. And so, yes, we're doing things very well, and we have a lot of good things happening. But the time to look at whether or not we can do things better is not after we've lost a hospital and a Walmart. And at one point, they had one of the largest, well, it was the largest Mack truck facility. In case you don't know, I'm talking about Fairfield County. Had a huge facility down there, manufacturing, and they lost that entire facility. And it sat empty for a number of years. That's not when we want to start looking at, well, what do we do and how do we improve this situation after we've already lost all of those taxpayers and all of those employers to somebody else. Because in my business as a financial advisor, I'm a field trainer and I train new advisors, and one thing I always tell them is to remember your best client is somebody else's best prospect. So every one of our big employers in this county, there's somebody else in another county that's trying to entice them to leave right now. I guarantee you, almost every major employer we have has another county that's talking to them about how they can give them a tax advantage, give them a benefit. If they'll bring jobs down, there's opportunities for them if they'll come into some of these counties that are not doing as well as we are. So I'm very proud of what this county's done and the economic development we have and what David Swenson has done. But I think we are being extremely short-sighted and hurting our citizens and our taxpayers in the long run if we wait until after all of that happens and we're no longer at a 2.9% unemployment rate to start saying, oh, now what's the best way we can fix this and what's the best way for us to get economic development to this county when we're losing it. The time, you know, that old saying drives me crazy about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, as humans, we don't like a lot of change. You know, it's just human nature. But good organizations, whether you're a government organization or a corporate for-profit organization, should always look at how they're doing things and try to figure out if there's a better way to do it. We're tasked with that. That's why we have committee meetings, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, for those committees to look at how the county's doing things and see if there's a better way that it can be done. This committee was tasked with that. We looked at what we're doing and what other counties are doing, what not just in South Carolina, but across the country. And we had experts come in and talk about it, and we felt like this is the best way to improve what we're already doing and to ensure that the county continues to be prosperous and to bring that growth in, because we all know, Chairman Johnson said it several times, we're not going to be in this continued expansion that we're in right now forever. Recessions are a normal part of the business cycle. We had a major one in 2008. There'll be another one come along before long, hopefully not like 2008. The last one that was that bad was in the 1930s. So hopefully we go for another, 70, 80 years before we have another one like that. We had them in the 80s. We had them in the 70s. We had one. Recessions are a normal part of the business cycle, and I believe we are completely wrong if we wait till the next recession hits and then say, oh, well, we should have done that P3 thing back there when we looked at it. We're all going to be asked why we didn't do what was best for the county when that time comes up.
Ms. Love.
I think part of determining what's best for the county is seeing the strategic plan. I have a lot of faith in David Swenson, But I also want to see the strategic plan for P3. I'm not comfortable voting to adopt the resolution for this, and I agree with Councilwoman Cox with just about everything that she said, with the exception of the comment that Robert Winkler didn't like. And so that one little coin phrase, but I'm just teasing you. But my concerns differ a little bit, and they are more related to growth management. And I know that growth management, when we did our strategic meeting, we kind of put everything under one umbrella, and we didn't break it out individually. And I know it's going to get broken out and be a little more able to pinpoint things. And one side of it's going to be, economic development commercial, and one's going to be versus residential. But one of council's goals, and one of the prime goals, last year's goal and this year's goal, is growth management. And I'm not sure yet, because I haven't seen the plan. I'm just not comfortable with this, because it was worked on through committee and through economic development. I'm not on that board. I wasn't on the committee or anything, and quite frankly, I haven't had time to even attend those meetings because my plate's rather full. But I just am a little bit concerned about how this correlates with the definition of growth management that is in my mind when we sit in a council strategic meeting and I talk about growth management. My definition may be different than some. You saw the people here tonight from Lake Wiley, and they define what I sit here and hope for. And I think there's also some conversation that needs to be had as far as what is incentivized as far as fee and lieu and some of those types of businesses. And one of the things that I ask for, I would like to see, not just for my district, but for countywide, kind of an overlay. And by that, I mean just a piece of clear paper laid down across the county so that I'm more comfortable with what's coming where, because I don't have any idea. And it concerns me because I don't think that growth management, your definition of growth management and mine are the same. And what I don't want to do is give someone the leeway to just take off in a direction that competes with what my definition of growth management might be. So my point is that I'm not comfortable with this yet. And I'm willing to meet and have you explain it and go into more detail. But as of tonight, I'm not comfortable with adopting this resolution.
Mr. Roddy?
Yes. Councilmember Cox brought up a couple of things to my attention with her concerns. We're still going to be we're still going to be paying in 93% of economic development's budget. And like you say, we're losing representation. As it stands right now, each council district gets a representative on the Economic Development Board. Each council member won't have a representative appointed to the board. And I know from where I sit and the influence that my district has, I won't get a say in who represents on that board. If it was a situation or scenario where each council member still was able to appoint someone from their district, that would go over a little better with me, because when we start talking about the big boys coming to town and being parts of the P3, and for those who don't know, P3 is that public-private partnership. So if you hear that phrase thrown around in the community, that's what it means. I want to have someone from my district who has some influence with what's going on countywide. And I'll say it tonight, I know my district will probably get shut out on having someone from my district on that board over someone from whether it's Fort Mill or the other side of Rock Hill or Lake Wiley, Clover area. But if the county's going to be involved, I think we should have someone from each council district at the table. It's been that way, and I think it's worked very well. It will be a change, a huge change, going from not having a representative from my district or my district may be fortunate enough to get a representative. Maybe the person gets shut out, maybe from Lake Wiley or from Fort Mill. Who knows? But I just think if we're going to make this move, we need to keep in mind how important it is to have someone from each council district to be a part of something that is going to be countywide, because the recruitment for jobs and businesses is going to be countywide. I've had excellent representation on the Economic Development Board. The other thing is the concerns, what is this going to do with staffing? We've gotten a presentation, but we don't know if are we going to lose people on staff, or we're going to have to gain people, employ more people on staff. Those are some of the concerns as well. And just because we go to a P3 scenario or weed it into what we're already doing, it's not going to stop a recession. If a recession's coming our way and if it hits, this group, this organization is not going to stop it from happening here in York County. So let's don't just dangle that out there to say this is why we should do it now, because if something happens to the economy, York County is not recession-proof. I don't care if we have the best economic development group in America. If it's going to hit, it's going to affect York County as well also. So those are just a couple of my concerns, and just hearing the part about the strategic plan. I'm sure that will come. That has to be a part of the process. And, those are just my concerns. And I didn't have as many coming into tonight, but hearing some of what concerns Councilmember Cox, help shed some light on maybe some other concerns that needs to be addressed.
As just a point of clarification, no one on this council has a member from their district sitting on economic development. We amended that ordinance at least 2.5 years ago and went to a modified version where we appoint them and we vote them through, but they represent the real estate industry, office industries, the Western York County Economic Development, York County Growth Partners, the manufacturing industry, office industry, banking industry, York Tech, and Winthrop. So we, as a council, no longer do that. I'm not taking one side or the other at this point. I'm going to give my comments in a minute, but I just want to have, for clarification purposes, we don't do that anyway.
18 members that currently are allowed to serve on that committee. I think the Catawba Indian Nation, we just appointed someone, which we're now going to, if we move forward with that, they will not have a seat. But I think the membership to that committee was broader than what we're looking at moving to. And you know, this was, I believe when we went to this committee makeup, it was 2 years ago. And I'm not even sure that we've given ourselves time to see what happens on that, but.
Mr. Winkler.
I'm sorry, just one quick clarification in case I misspoke. I don't believe I said that this would stop a recession. I believe I said there will be a recession coming.
Right.
I just said that I don't think when the recession hits is the best time for us to look at the options on that. I never intended to say or imply that this would stop us from hitting a recession if we do a P3. There will be a recession coming. It's just how we handle it and how we plan for it.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly understand some of the points that Ms. Cox made. That was some of my initial concerns when I sat on that committee that kind of evaluated this. But I want us to look at it from the best angle possible. I mean, I fought to have the I-77 Alliance formed. Just looking at kind of the global picture of being at the table in South Carolina, I think we need to look at the county. I mean, I'm a little concerned by the territorial comments that I hear a little bit coming out that have been kind of becoming more pronounced the past couple of years. But in terms of some of the comments that Ms. Cox made, the good thing about this, it opens up a lot more doors to many more businesses if they want to put forth the money. It was kind of a restrictive club before. The really smaller businesses like me, you can join the chamber, but you even have an opportunity to join into this if you want to put forth the money. But the bottom line, per what Ms. Love said before kind of saying, I trust him, but I don't want to do it kind of thing, Mr. Swenson doesn't win unless York County wins, and he's a big supporter of this, so that probably sways me more than anything, and I'll support it.
I'd like to correct one thing. So I didn't say that I trusted him and that I wasn't going to support this. What I'm saying is that I would like more information. The same thing that I said at our strategic meeting is I would like more information. I'm not comfortable with the information that I have. And I'm certainly not being territorial. I'm looking at this countywide when I said I wanted an overlay to see kind of what is where. And the second part of that would be, I'd like to know when a recession does come, what's the strategic plan at that point? So what I'm asking for is a strategic plan. I'd like to see what the plans are going forward for P3.
I'm going to wrap this up and call for the question here in 1 second. I think I'm often surprised when I hear us talk about economic development, how I guess I view it very differently. Economic development is not going out and saying, Boeing, we want you to come to York County. It's Boeing looking at York County and saying, we're willing to consider you as one of the 20 places we might come. Economic development is about preparing a table that companies want to come sit down at. It is about making sure that your land is zoned for industrial use, that you have utilities to the land that will allow that. and that you have created a tax environment and a regulatory environment that benefits that. That's economic development. And we can talk about, well, who will be represented at the table? In all honesty, the people at the table are the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the utilities. They're the companies that want to drive business here for their benefit. Yes, it is. It is for their benefit. If you're a utility, you're in the business of selling power. You want somebody to come and use a whole bunch of power. That's why they're in this game. Most people aren't in the game, in all honesty. Most of the realtors you'll talk to, most of that kind of crowd, they're really not. They're not large enough to be in that game. And so I'm a little surprised that we have, part of the idea of doing workshops is so that we have an opportunity here. If you weren't satisfied at the workshop, certainly I want you to have more time, and that's why we'll have 3 readings of an actual ordinance, 6 weeks for this to happen. I'm hoping we will pass what is simply a resolution allowing us to consider and begin moving forward. This is not we're doing P3. This is the procedural hoop we must jump through just to get to a point where we can discuss P3. I want to urge us to think about economic development at a larger level. It's not about what is developed in one district versus another district. It's about trying to make sure that all of York County is ready over the next 50 years for the type of industries that will come here that will employ our children. That is what economic development is about. And so with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Council to hold a discussion regarding a legal representative attending all planning commission meetings. Ms. Love, you asked us to be on the agenda.
I did ask for this to be on the agenda, and we had this on our zoning committee agenda on February the 21st, and we just, Emily attended that meeting with us and felt like maybe there wasn't a need for them to be represented at the planning commission meetings. I feel like the 3 of us on that zoning committee felt like there is a need for that. And I think the biggest need is that the developers and people who are now coming for plans and things to be approved, their attorneys are coming and speaking on behalf of them. And we don't have legal representation there for our planning commission to ask questions and see what our, let's just say, legal limits might be. In addition to the zoning committee requesting this, I also have 5 of the 9 members of the planning commission who are requesting the same, with some examples of cases when they felt like they could have benefited from having legal counsel at the planning commission meetings. So I think the planning commission is a very important commission that we have. That and the ZBA are making decisions that are affecting the everybody that lives in the county every time they meet. And I would just, I mean, Michael Kendry was always at the ZBA meetings when I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and there's just kind of a comfort zone that goes along with that. And I hate to ask that anything be added to that plate, but I feel like it's just very necessary to have someone there. And, would be willing to review that again down the way, 6 to 8 months from now, and go back and review it again and say, okay, how many times were you needed and what were just review it. But for right now, the immediate situation, I feel like it's, I feel like it's necessary.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, I'll just quickly say that, and I hate to say that or imply that some boards are more important than other boards or commissions, but the ZBA and the Planning Commission are 2 that look at a lot of legal issues and things, and I do believe that we should have legal representation there at those 2 meetings, and I apologize, Mr. Kendry, for adding a little bit more to your department's plate, but I feel that is something that those 2 boards in particular, we should have legal representation or that, there for that.
I would echo that same sentiment. I think that we've put in the budget to hire enough legal counsel to make sure we have representation there, and I think it's important to protect the taxpayer dollars and to make sure we don't get ourselves into legal battles that we could have avoided if we would have had someone there to help advise and make sure that they were following the law.
I support it as well, so this is not a vote, but it does appear, at least from the members who have spoken, that a majority would support that. Impact fee annual report.
Our impact fee ordinance requires that each year we do an annual report to council, first meeting in March. It's very brief. It lists a number of things we could report to council. I think the only pertinent thing this year was a recommendation on the amendments that we would propose, and we really only have one, and that's a definition, clarification of a definition on retiree housing, who is actually entitled to that, and what are the terms they would be entitled to that. It is stipulated in the ordinance, but there's some application of it that probably needs to be discussed a little further, specifically about if it's a retiree housing project, we expect those to be like a development of housing projects, not one or two houses. So we want to refine how you would qualify for that. Otherwise, I've given you some basic information just on what we've collected, what we have waived this year, and we did have some refunds because a lot of people tried to get permits to get in under the wire so they could pay the old fee. They were unable to build all the houses that they got permits for, so we had a number of refunds based on that, and we expected that. Similarly, the report that you will get in future years about the fees generated will be a little more specific. This was a commingling of the old fee and the new fee, and the way it was structured was different in the old fee. In addition to being a different amount, it was paid differently. It was lumped in. All things were were paid per residential unit. Now we split it up between single family and multifamily. So it is different now. In future years, you'll get a more detailed report as to how many units were approved single family, how many multifamily. So this is just some basic information for you to look at and make any comments you would have.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you. Council to hold a discussion regarding the use of council committees. Dr. Blackwell.
Here again, I just want to make a reminder that I made as chair 18 months ago, 2 years ago, whenever it was. Just a warning that committees are not mini councils, like I pointed out with finance or budget. We do 3 things that come to the head of the list: select the county manager, manage the taxpayers' money, and protect our citizens, law enforcement, fire protection. So when it comes to the budget, that's a council decision, and I don't, efficiencies, procedural, fine for committees. I've grabbed the last 3 committees, like my committee. We talked to the sheriff about a booking center. We got some information. We asked for more information. And we said, bring that not back to us. We said, bring it to the whole council. So the whole council can start to really get into the nitty-gritty of it, and us not make a decision and present the decision to the whole council. Talk about the overlay district through the zoning committee. Of course, efficiencies, procedural, great, but the committee's not supposed to decide the overlay and then say, council, here you go. That's a council decision. So it's just a point, a reminder of we got to make sure that the committees don't become a mini council, and then we bypass citizen transparency, not to mention council transparency. And as has been voiced not by me, but other council members, hey, I'm not on that committee, I feel left out, I don't know what's going on, I gotta hear the stuff, so.
Anyone else? I would say this, one of the things we're going to do as a council, we are, I believe in committees, I believe in the use of committees. I think we should have a strong committee system. But committees are, Dr. Blackwell is absolutely correct, committees don't make the final decision. The council makes the final decision. That is why nothing will come out of a committee that is not put through a workshop, which every person in here has the opportunity to hear it, vet it, add to it, subtract to it. These should not be, the workshop is where we all have to learn and we all have to be prepared to go forward, and especially now that we have a standing workshop. Council to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the City of TGK for the processing of recyclables at the York County Material Recovery Facility. Anybody got a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have some
Ms.
questions.
Cox?
I'm going to say this, in researching this, the thing that troubles me, and I have no problem with the county providing this service. I know that there have been a lot of entities, municipalities, and even folks in Lancaster who have asked us to look into whether or not we should do the recycling for them. What I'm concerned about is the recommendation, honestly, the recommendation from management that we move forward with this and not knowing what the cost is. Because as it stands right now, what I understand is that the folks in the unincorporated area are paying $3 million to deal with the operational cost of doing this, and that the recycling industry is hitting a place where not only are we not making money on this, but we're losing money and we're having to dip into the general fund in order to subsidize the operation. So I think it's fine if the county is going to do this across the board. I just have a concern, and I can certainly understand how it benefits TGK, and I think it's a good thing. But I do have concerns when there's a recommendation made and we don't know how much it costs, or we're making a recommendation without at least trying to guesstimate what the cost is going to be, and making sure that we aren't asking the unincorporated people to pay that plus more because of the added cost in the general fund dip. So I would like to hear from staff as to whether or not and when we will have, I noted in the agreement that we're not going to charge any funds. At what point will we be in a position to be able to analyze that and to make sure that we're just treating folks fairly?
We've started accumulating data. This is a new center. It's a state-of-the-art facility. We've never operated anything like this previously. Our public works staff is currently tracking all cost. They will continue to track cost. I think over the next 4 to 6, 7 months, we'll have a better idea of exactly what it's going to cost us. We'll be able to bring that back to the table and utilize that in renewing this contract with TGK, and also renewing it with other cities that may want to come on board. The town of Fort Mill has also indicated interest in this. We've also got a lot of private contractors out there who would like to recycle, that would bring materials to us also. So we'll be able to give that information to them at that time. This gives us an opportunity to help TGK, to be helpful to TGK, to their citizens. They're a strong recycling community. One of the things that we do notice when folks change their habits, it's hard to get that habit reestablished. That's one of the reasons we were willing to move ahead with this and bring this agreement forward without having everything, our cost defined. But our public works staff is, they're tracking every cost that we have with that facility now. And I think we'll have that in the near future.
Mr. Winkler.
Just a couple of comments and then I guess a question or two. One, we do have a large, beautiful new facility over there, and it sounds kind of strange to say beautiful when we're talking about recycling trash. But, you know, the taxpayers voted on that with the bond referendum. We've put a wonderful piece of equipment in there that sits idle about 5 days a week, because we don't have enough material to recycle at this point. So we've spent a lot of money on a big piece of equipment that the majority of the time doesn't do anything for us. So I believe that looking at other opportunities for where we might could get more material to recycle, and yes, we can resell some of it to recoup the costs. I'm glad to hear that we're looking at the agreement. I think we need to revisit that. I'd like to see this intergovernmental agreement, have a time frame of, personally, at least by the end of this year or something, so that we could revisit it with TDK and the other municipalities for that, once we know a cost to start charging, or else they could go somewhere else with it. But I think this is a proper use of the taxpayers' dollars that we spent all this money to put that piece of equipment in, to have it sit there idly doing nothing for the majority of the time. I don't think it's the best use of the taxpayer dollars. So I think we should look at this, and I think we should not do it for nothing. I think we should have an agreement to where they pay a portion, because they'll pay for anybody else that does it. So, but at this time, I would support that, as long as that is in the understanding in the works, that we revisit this sooner rather than later to recoup those costs.
Mr. Harmon, just to answer that question, is there a provision in there that would allow us to begin to collect a tipping fee from any municipality who wanted to have us recycle for them?
We do have a provision in there, the county, and it states the county intends to evaluate processing costs associated with this agreement during the initial one-year term, and may elect to propose tipping fees for inbound recyclables, at which time a new agreement will be negotiated between both parties.
I just have one question. When I went to do the tour of the facility, my understanding from staff who circled it is that it really wasn't, we can process a lot more of it. The problem is there's no market, and so we're having to bury it, or it's sitting on the property. I thought that was the issue. I'm just asking the question. Are we going to have a concern with that?
We have limited what we will accept from TDK and what we will not accept. The things that we don't have a market for, obviously, we will not accept. But the recycling market as a whole has changed over the last couple of years. We're fortunate that we got a number of long-time relationships with vendors who still allow us to recycle glass. We don't get paid. I don't think we get paid anything for glass, but we do have an outlet for that. So we're not bringing in materials and processing or separating and then taking to the landfill. It can be recycled. We would rather try to keep it out of the landfills as much as possible.
Yes, Mr. Roddy.
As chairman of the Public Works Committee, I wish I would have gotten a little more heads up and got some more information about this coming to us. To mention that we have equipment that's sitting for 4 or 5 days a week, my question now turns to, did we purchase equipment that we really didn't need if we have it sitting that big extended period of time? And also, do we have any idea what kind of revenue or costs, what kind of revenue is this going to bring by us taking those recyclables? There should be maybe some kind of projection on what we look to get if, like I said, maybe the market soften up a little bit, but what financials, cost-wise, what financial revenue-wise, it seems that we may not have an answer to that right now. Am I correct?
I don't have that answer for you right now. Just to correct, and Eric, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we typically we're running the facility 3 days a week now, so we're processing 3 days a week. So we do have additional capacity within the facility. Our goal has always been to hopefully establish relationships with municipalities and collectors and be able to process their materials. It not only helps us to maybe produce revenue, but it keeps it out of landfills. It increases our recycling percentage across the state that we report to DHEC on an annual basis. So our goal is to to work with these other municipalities that may not have an outlet for their materials. And we'd be glad to get that financial data to you.
Ms. Love?
When I got the agenda, I looked at this item 7 and thought maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know exactly what we're doing here. I think this is a great example of where we could improve communication, where we have a standing workshop once a month, and this could have taken 10 minutes of time just to be a little ahead of the game so that we all would show up here and know what this was about and not have to ask basic, kindergarten questions about it. So that's just something for future reference. And I didn't question it ahead of time because I felt like maybe I was the only one that hadn't kept up or didn't know what was going on. But that would eliminate that issue for a lot of us that maybe didn't know. And also, because communication is one of our council goals, I think it's important that we, kind of more or less know what's on the agenda, at least have a little bit of a backstory on something like this, where, what if the town of Clover calls, or somebody else calls, that's the only one the city of York calls and says, hey, what are you doing that, can we do this too? And we don't have answers for that. So I just think an understanding of it ahead of time would be beneficial.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Hamilton?
Well, I share Councilwoman Cox's concerns regarding the efficacy of entering into an agreement where the costs are just conspicuously absent. I had some concerns about that too when I first read this. Knowing that there's some chance based on the contract to back out if those costs are exorbitant is somewhat comforting. But if we're running this county anywhere near how we would run a business, this certainly isn't something that we would consider.
Sorry, Dr. Black. Mr. Hamilton makes a good point. So this is the part I was going to say. I will wrap it up. I agree this should have been discussed greater and should have certainly been tagged on to the back of our workshop, and I will make sure in the future that we try to do that. One of my goals for the past 6 years on the county council has been to try to have a better relationship, one, with municipalities, and start cutting out some of the redundancies. So right now in TUK, there's a cost to recycling. No one's making money recycling anymore, y'all. That ship sailed. This is a money loser. We're losing money on it. TUK's losing money on it. Rock Hill probably losing money on it. I don't know exactly, but I know Fort Mill's losing money. But what they're wanting to do is both Fort Mill and TUK are wanting to send us their recycling, and they're going to pay us for it. They're going to pay us a fee to do it for them so that they don't have to have a whole nother redundancy on top of our redundancy. And whether you're talking about rec, libraries, no matter what it is you can do, if you can do it where now you don't have 3 recycling directors, you have 1 recycling director. And then it saves money for taxpayers countywide over a long haul. Do we have to break even? Yes, we should not. We charge a fee via a tax on every person who lives in York County in the unincorporated areas for this. We need to make sure that any municipality that joins us in this is paying their fair share. I think that is what this clawback provision or this provision to allow this tipping fee will do. It will give us that ability to make sure that we're being paid and that we're not losing money. We're not spending unincorporated tax dollars on a municipal problem. We shouldn't do that. I firmly agree with you. I hope this is the first step in us being able to work with all of our municipalities, whether they're York or Clover or anywhere or Rock Hill. We need better collaboration. We need better cooperation. I believe this is a good first step. I am comfortable, but certainly this will be up to the will of the council. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion passes 5-2. Yeah,
I was a no.
you were a no. 4-3. Committee and other, new business number 8. Approve nominated applicants for boards and commissions from the Finance and Operations Committee meeting on February 18, 2019. I'll just read them and then you can make your amendment, just so we'll have it. John Howard, Bethel Fire Tax Advisory Board. Jennifer Riddle, Bethel Fire Tax Advisory Board. Dennis Getter, York County Natural Gas Board. Laura Bailey, Lake Wiley Parks and Rec District. Robert Burton, Catawba Regional Workforce. Richard Irby, Oakdale Fire Tax. Leon Yard, Oakdale Fire Tax. Dr. Blackwell.
Here again, I asked it to be pulled out just due to consistency, due to the Bethel Tax Board appointments. I know, kind of like I said, it's a unique situation. The past 2 years or so, Ms. Love wanted the tax board dissolved, and she wanted Mr. Shanahan, the county manager, to run it. And then she wanted the rebirth of the tax board, which is fine. I'm not arguing the point, but I think with all that going on, the gentleman that had been involved with trying to clean up the situation and concerns should have been part of the formation of a new tax board. So that's my logic, as before.
I don't know who that is.
Is there forgive me, is there a motion to approve the nominated applicants first?
So moved. Second.
Now discussion, I apologize. I think Dr. Blackwell said his discussion. Mr. Winkler.
I'll agree. I've made the comment before that I told Councilmember Love I wouldn't stand. I'm on the Finance and Operations Committee, which vets these ahead of time and puts them out to council. And I told her that as one of the members there that I would not stand in the way of the Bethel Tax District at that point, but I've consistently voted against putting it back in and voted against these people as well. And I'd like to ask a point of order. Normally, we take nominations from the floor on these as well for some of these. Is that something that will be done at this point? Because we have in the past, or we've asked for them in the past. I don't know if we've ever had one.
I certainly think you have the right to amend this at this point, yes, to add a new member, if you are so inclined to make that motion.
I made the motion in Finance and Operations, and I'd like to make it again here. Whether it gets a second or not, we'll see. But I would like to nominate Joel Wood for the York County Natural Gas Board in place of Mr. Getter.
There is a motion to amend the original motion to add Joel Wood to the York County Natural Gas Board. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion. I'm not saying I'll
There is a second.
do that, but I'll allow discussion.
Mr. Winkler.
Thank you. I just felt Mr. Getter, I've known for a number of years. I felt like this was one of those, again, where we had a lot of qualified people apply, and we don't have that very often. We don't have a lot of people apply on very often, much less qualified people. But with Mr. Wood's background in being a current practicing licensed engineer, and I felt like he was the better qualified candidate. He does infrastructure engineering and that type of thing, and so I just felt like that based on the applications and the qualifications of the candidates, I felt like he was a better one. I made the motion then. It died then. I said I was going to make it again today, so.
Anyone else? The rule, Mr. Blackwell.
Yeah, I'll just say that I know both gentlemen, and I think they're both highly qualified. I wasn't part of that committee, so I don't know all the particulars, so that probably limits my ability to discern between the two. So in this case, I'm going to trust the wisdom of the committee and go along with them, but I was a little torn between those two gentlemen.
Anyone else have a comment out? The rules require that we now have a vote between those two. So the only vote we will have is, and I'm just going to use them in alphabetical order to try to make this easier. All those in favor of Dennis Getter say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All for Joel Wood say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Getter has won the motion to amend. We are back to the original motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing
No.
none?
No.
One no, two
Oh.
noes.
Two noes.
Two noes. Committee and other reports. Zoning committee meeting.
So I don't want to scare Dr. Blackwell to death tonight, but we did have a few items on the agenda. We had 6 items on our agenda. We met on Thursday, February the 21st, and that zoning committee consists of Joel Hamilton, Christy Cox, and myself. The first item was regarding the renaming of the zoning committee to planning and zoning. That was referred to the Justice and Public Safety meeting and last fall, and we asked that the current chair add it to last week's agenda, and they said that they would. Number 2, we discussed the public hearing process, and we're going to review that again at the next committee meeting. We're just kind of still gathering some information on different ways of doing that. Number 3, we discussed some changes to RUD and BD3 zoning districts. We will continue discussions at our next committee meeting on that. We did get a lot of staff input on everything that's on this agenda. Number 4 was a preliminary discussion of district overlays, and the planning director, David Hudspeth, will be asking for input from all council members as we will continue to come up with a countywide plan based on your suggestions to see what we can kind of lump together and what works for multiple districts to suggest to council at a future workshop. Number 5, we discussed changes to the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. I believe that we felt like, I think the consensus was that that was not a priority for staff at this time. And there were maybe some bigger fish to fry, but that we'd consider that again at a later date. And that was basically, just as an explanation of that, was to maybe allow staff to do some approvals at their level rather than it going to the Planning Commission. And then number 6 was the requested legal counsel attend all Planning Commission meetings, and we asked that that come before council tonight, and it has. And that's it.
Economic Development, Mr. Winkler.
Thank you, sir. Economic Development Committee met on Tuesday, February 26th at noon, and had a few things on the agenda. First, we had a new council member and 2 new members just on the Economic Development Committee. So our Economic Development Director just provided an update to us on product development and talked about 2 large sites that are in the county. I won't read through everything, but one was a CSX site in Councilmember Cox's district, and Duke has done a survey and doing some work on that. And the pros and cons of what we discussed will be in the minutes once Karen's gotten them approved and sent out and everything, so everyone can see those. But it was nothing that was voted on. He also discussed site readiness on the Highway 274 site, which is in, I believe, Councilmember Love's district. And he gave us an update on the East York Industrial Spec Building, which is in my district. Then we moved into just a general discussion of incentives and fee in lieu of agreements and that type thing, just to bring both the new committee members up to speed on that and how he calculates those. There were 4 matters that were brought before us in executive session and were voted out, not unanimously, but they were voted out to come before the full council. And that was a motion motion to move forward with a fee incentive for Project Combat, a fee incentive for Project Technicolor, one for Project Riverwalk Spec, and one for Project Riverwalk at I-77. Then there being no further business, the committee meeting was closed, and all 4 of those projects will come before the full council. So.
Justice and Public Safety, Dr. Blackwell.
Thank you, sir. We had a discussion regarding the Riverview firemen's request to be county employees. To quote the chief, he doesn't want to be in the HR business. Mr. Merriman will set up an HR job description for council approval. We also heard the discussion on the booking center need and timetable, which Sheriff Tolson pointed out the need for it in the Eastern Booking Center. We asked for concrete up-to-date numbers, structure, land costs, MOU agreements with the Rock Hill and Fort Mill to have some concrete information to go forward with council. Mr. Winkler even asked about moving walls around in the present prison system to accommodate the situation, and made some good points, and that wouldn't totally take care of the problem. We've got an update on all the volunteer fire departments since we're a new committee. And per Ms. Love's request, we heard the request for changing the name of the zoning committee to the Planning and Zoning Committee, and changing the name of the Planning and Economic Development Committee to the Economic Development Committee, which we procedurally took care of.
Council member, new non-agenda comments.
I'm out of breath. We made enough.
Looks like Ms. Cox wants to talk.
I do have one. We've talked about this at the strategic planning session, and we've talked about this at various committee levels. And my understanding is that there is a willingness on council to amend the ordinance regarding the funding of the Economic Development Project Fund, at least to ensure to follow through with the things that we've talked about, and that is to make sure that prime property on I-77 and out from there, that we use it to the highest and best use. I think that right now, the way it stands, 10% off of any FILO goes into this fund, and based upon the discussion that we've had, I'd like to at least start moving forward to amend the ordinance to allow council to have some discretion as to decide what sorts of things we do want to go into that fund or not.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Ms. Love?
So speaking of committees, I have a couple of questions about a committee that I voted no for. I was the lone no vote, and I still have some concerns. This is the committee that's made up of the 4 fire chiefs and a county employee. So I got the list of all of the county committees and boards, and they all have a liaison from county management or their chairman who is in a related business to what that board is discussing. So my concern is that we have 4 fire chiefs, and I am about hearing from our fire chiefs. And so if we could hear from 5 rather than 4, I would be happier with that. And I'm just curious to know why we have a county employee sitting on that committee rather as the liaison to that committee. And I would also like to know why their agendas are not posted, why the meetings are not public. And I know that they are updating the fire chiefs, but I would also like to know what's on those agendas, and I would like to know that anybody can attend those meetings like our other meetings that we have. And we have a Sports Park Advisory Committee in Lake Wylie, and we have Bethel Volunteer Fire Department Advisory, which are the 2 that I'm most familiar with. I'm not being territorial, I'm just telling you what I know. And those 2, the Sports Park Committee, I made sure back in December that they would adhere to the rules of everyone else and that they would post their agendas. They would not meet without letting people know the public is welcome to attend, and we will know, we'll know what's being discussed in all of those meetings. So I just don't understand why this one is different, and I would like to, I would actually like to get in writing from county management on why this one is set up differently. And would like for maybe council to weigh in at a future meeting on if you think that this is okay and the way that it's set up and why. The other thing that I would like to know is where is the money that was in the Rural Fire Board Fund, how much in it, and what is the intended use of it? And I'd like to get that. Yep.
Anybody else have a new non-agenda item? I would ask that, Mr. Shanahan, that your office get that information together and be able to explain to council agendas, public meetings, where the funds are, and also that we will have, I would ask Mr. Winkler to have discussions regarding Ms. Cox's concerns regarding fee in lieu agreements. That's probably best used out of that committee. I will give this my parting thought. I did not realize the crowd would take me literally tonight when I said you had as long as you wanted to talk. But we do appreciate their comments and people coming. It makes for a long meeting, but it is good to have feedback. There are no citizens' concerns that I'm aware of left. There is no executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Listen.